Hey, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of the Quarter Disorder Podcast. This is episode 4, being recorded on Friday night, February 9th, 2024. I'm your host, Tim Bowman, and joining me is my co-host, Lewis, who has basically sold everything Xbox, even the Xbox fridge, and he refuses to wear green shirts going forward from this day, all because of what's going on with Xbox in the past week. Lewis, how's it going?
Oh, going great. I'm a little bit richer, but a little bit lighter here in my entertainment center, and I just hope Phil heard me.
Would you say you're doing better this week than Xbox has the past week or so, or?
Yes, because I'm able to speak, unlike Xbox this week.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, that's a positive, right?
Yeah, it's a positive. I
So,
lost my voice, folks, whenever the Xbox rumors started dropping on Sunday, because it left me speechless, literally. But thankfully for this episode, I'm ready to go.
he came back for the pod,
Yeah.
so he's back.
Putting the business first.
So before we get into the show, just some housekeeping things of how you can listen to the podcast. We are on Apple, Spotify, and all other podcast platforms. And we also upload the show to our YouTube page at Quarter Disorder Podcast, so you can listen to the full shows there with timestamps and show notes and things like that. If you go to the website at quarterdisorder.com or quarterdisorderpodcast.com, you can find a link to this episode and all other episodes, show notes on the website there that gives you kind of insight to the stories we're talking about and links you can click into and just overall notes of what we've been talking about. And every episode that we do, there's a specific show note on there. So if you go to quarterdisorder.com or quarterdisorderpodcast.com, at the top of the homepage is a podcast section that you can click into for each episode. And on those episodes, you can also leave show feedback there. You leave us some comments about the episode you're listening to, or send us an email to the email address is feedback@quarterdisorderpodcast.com. If you want to drop us a message there or just any sort of comments you have about the show. And we're also on all social media platforms, which you can find at the website. We are on Threads, Twitter, Facebook, basically everything there's a platform for. We have a page on where you can get notified of new episodes and news about the show. So be sure to follow us on there. And all those social media pages are available on the website for you to go into and follow whichever ones you want to. So after all that, let's get into the show for this week. And we're going to start with what we've been watching. So I'll start this one first and say that talk about Echo, which I mentioned on a previous episode, I believe last week's episode. I ended up finishing the show, which was only 5 episodes. So I think last show I only watched the first one, so I finished the remaining 4. And each episode was about 35 to 40 minutes, and ended up being a really great show. I was kind of surprised because Echo's kind of like a minor character, and some of the recent Marvel shows haven't been doing so hot, but this one was really good. The series basically goes into Echo's past of her upbringing with Fisk and how she got to be this kind of like sort of career criminal under him. But then, as in the show with Hawkeye that was on Disney Plus, you kind of find out that Fisk isn't what he appears to be to her, as far as their like kind of relationship as a father-daughter type thing. So she kind of finds out the truth and wants to take his empire down. And Echo kind of goes through that. But overall, the show was really great. Especially the last episode, episode 5, I really liked, which was the culmination of the series there, and you kind of learn more about Echo and her special powers that come from her Native American tribe. And the whole show is filmed in Oklahoma with the Choctaw and Choctaw Nation. A lot of actors that were Native actors, and I believe the Choctaw Nation actually consulted with Marvel and Disney on the show for like really cool authenticity, which really comes out on the episodes. And the name of the show Echo is, they kind of explain like her name comes from because her powers, they describe them as echoing throughout each generation, and the show does a really great job of like kind of portraying that from like the earliest Choctaw tribe to all the way to Echo, who is the latest in the line of the family. So there's a post-credit scene that's tied into the upcoming Daredevil Born Again series that's coming out in 2025. So if you watch these episodes, make sure you stick with that. It's kind of interesting where they're going with that. And I did want to say that the main actress who plays Echo, Maya Lopez, as the character's name, she wasn't really even an actress before this in Hawkeye.
Oh wow.
I guess she was just kind of was told about. She was on like Jimmy Fallon or something like that, one of those late night talk shows, and she was basically saying how she just got referred to check out a casting for like a deaf character. And I guess she's like, okay, like, hey, why not? And then she actually got the role for it. So it's kind of cool how she's kind of not really like a traditional actress, but became, you know, I think she did a great job in this series and should be really popular. And hopefully they use her going forward as well. There was also several actors from other shows and movies that I recognize, from like Reservoir Dogs, that's on Hulu, I believe, and also some actors and actresses from the Martin Scorsese film that came out last year, Killers of the Flower Moon. There was some characters I recognized on there. So it's kind of cool you see these native actors getting a lot of roles and stuff like that. But overall, Echo was great. Really great show. I really did like it. It's short, 5 episodes. Like I said, 35 to 40 minutes each, easy to get through. And really, the way they developed her character was really great, and her like abilities and her relationship with her family and her personal growth was really well done. So I liked it a lot. I'm looking forward to what they do with her, and then, of course, Daredevil Born Again next year.
That's
And
interesting. Is this your favorite Marvel series from Disney so far?
I think one of them. It's definitely really good. It's definitely one of the better ones. I think Marvel just has that air about it right now, where it's like everything's just like skippable and boring,
Mm-hmm.
and people are like just down about it. But they did a really great job with her series, and then the main actor that plays Fisk is tremendous. He's like incredible. He's like perfect for that role. So I hope they use him in like the movies too.
Yeah.
Like Kingpin as well. I mean, in the comics, he becomes mayor of New York City. So that's been out there for years, and he has all these feuds with Daredevil and Spider-Man and Punisher and stuff like that. So they can definitely use him in that role because he's like so great as this actor. Like I
Yeah,
can't
he's
see
great.
like Fisk being played
By anyone
by
else?
anybody else. But yeah, so check out Echo. It's on Hulu and Disney Plus. 5 episodes, really great show. I recommend it. And the other thing I've been watching this past week is the first episode of the new Curb Your Enthusiasm season 12 that debuted on Max or HBO Max. Really funny. Curb Your Enthusiasm is like one of my favorite series ever. I love Larry David. And in this episode, he basically gets invited. It's a continuation of season 11 and some of those characters, which was from a few years ago. But in this debut episode, he basically gets invited to this rich guy's like kind of birthday party to kind of be like a like a famous person there that everybody wants to meet or something. And then like it's like the in the show, like Larry David's like notorious for like hating people and not being able to do that. So the whole show kind of goes through this like um issues of that, like him getting paid for the performance and like just minor things. Him like at this hotel and he has like issues with like the maid service. I thought it was like really hilarious, like just the stuff he gets into. But they're doing a thing where each show is just debuting weekly. So instead of dropping all the episodes, it's coming out, I believe, every Sunday night. So that was episode 1. Episode 2 should probably drop this weekend, and
Interesting.
I'll get into that. But I thought it was hilarious. It's like 30 minutes, maybe 35 minutes. If you're a fan of like Curb and Larry David, Seinfeld, definitely check it out. Um, if you've never seen Curb before, I recommend you check out the earlier seasons on Max. But this, I think they do enough where you can just watch this episode and still get the jokes and the characters and stuff like that. But it's basically a continuation of season 11, some of like the thread lines there, but they do enough where it feels kind of new at the same time. So definitely worth checking out.
Awesome.
And Lewis, what have you been watching the past week?
So I continued my journey on What If, episode 3, and I don't know if it's because I'm a big fan of Christmas. It was a Christmas episode, and the topic was over Happy Hogan saving Christmas. And what the episode's about, well, beforehand, let me ask you about Echo. So do you feel like compared to space stories and more grounded stories, are you tired of space stories?
Yeah, yes and no. I think it's like they've been focusing on that a lot, like with the
Yeah.
Guardians and then
Yeah.
the Marvels, and I think the Quantum
Yeah, all that stuff. So,
movie.
for
Hmm.
this episode, it was more grounded, right? Because they're attacking Avengers Tower for the holiday party, and everything's more grounded, right? And I love this episode. I actually was like, I want more of this. So I'm going to continue my journey on What If. But this episode is if Happy Hogan took the super serum and turned into a Purple Hulk. It was great. The jokes actually hit. I wanted more of this, believe it or not. So I'm going to continue on. I highly recommend starting off on episode 3, guys, if you're gonna watch What If, because the first 2 episodes were kind of like, what is this? It's pretty bad.
So, what do you think was the change from like the first two to now the
I don't
third?
know.
Like, what?
Maybe John Favreau said, "Hey, let's make this good," because he voices Happy, so he was fantastic on the show, and I wanted more of this. Like I said, the jokes hit. Um, from the beginning to the end, I was actually I was entertained. This kind of felt like old Marvel, like in the first, Iron Man, Captain America movies, kind of. And that pacing,
Oh wow, so that's really going back.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, like that
Hmm.
perfect pacing. It doesn't feel rushed or anything. I liked it. So this episode gets 2 thumbs up for me. Hopefully, episode 4 is good. And I've been watching Hazbin Hotel on Amazon Prime, episode 2. Um, I don't want to get into too much spoilers because this is a relatively brand new show. But one thing that I do love about animated shows is like if they have a life lesson, it's really really like I look for that type of entertainment. So for Hazard Hotel 2, episode 2, the whole episode's about basically forgiving someone and giving them a second chance. And even though someone sees things black and white, not other people might see it that way, even though they want to be good as well. And Charlie and Angel does kind of have that conflict going on episode 2. So I kind of want to see what happens on episode 3. I don't want to get into spoilers because this is a very popular show. It's number 4 right now on Prime, I believe.
Wow, that's pretty high up
Yeah.
for Prime. I was gonna say like when you first started talking about this show last week, I thought the name of the show was like Has Been, like oh the guy that guy is such
Oh
a has
yeah,
been,
I thought so too. My friend
but it's
recommended it. Yeah.
actually yeah, it's actually Hazbin Hotel. So if you're looking up this show, it's has been. It's a weird spelling,
Yeah.
but that's the name of the show. So yeah, you're gonna keep up with this then and finish it out.
Yes, I will. Oh, for sure. I love this,
Mm-hmm.
and like I said, whenever
Mm-hmm.
an animated show has one of those life lessons, teachings that I think a lot of shows are kind of missing today, I want more of that too. But yeah, great viewing for my entertainment this week, especially from What If. I wasn't expecting episode 3 to be that good. Again, maybe because it's Christmas, but I loved it.
So you're still open to those life lessons even at your ripe old age. You're
Oh
still
yeah, of
learning,
course, yeah, I have to learn.
still still learning from those animated shows, those
Those
cartoons. They're
cartoons,
still
yeah,
giving us.
I'm never gonna change.
Okay, well that's interesting. Yeah, I haven't watched this yet. Yeah, I think I might have actually canceled my Amazon Prime because I had it for a bit. But if you're saying it's good, I might have to maybe keep up with that
Hmm.
and eventually just sit down and watch it because I finished Echo now, so I'm looking for a new show
Hmm.
to kind of get into. But Has Been Hotel again, you can check that out on Amazon Prime. And why don't we get into what we've been actually playing on the gaming side the past week? I know we both been playing this game after talking about the sequel last week, and that game is the Death Stranding, and we're both playing the director's cut version on PS5.
Hmm.
But before we get into that, because that's kind of like a shared game, I just want to talk about some of the bunch of game demos I played. I think I played the most demos I've ever played in my life in the past week. So for those who don't know, Steam, which is the PC platform from Valve, the past couple of years they've been doing an event around this time called Steam Next Fest. So basically, during this event, lasts for the week, and this one started on this past Monday, February 5th, and it's going to go through February 12th, this upcoming Monday. And there's just tons, probably like hundreds of demos that are free playable demos for all sorts of different games. Most of these are independent games or smaller publisher games. I didn't really see too many like major, AAA blockbuster type games on here. It's mostly for smaller developers and publishers, independent types. But there's so many different games you can check out of any sort of genre you're into on Steam. So I was actually, when I found out about the Steam Next Fest, I was just going through all the games on the store and like adding so much to my wish list. Like, oh, I'm gonna play this, I'm gonna play that. I think at one point I had up to like 20
Oh my
demos,
god.
and I'm like, yeah, I gotta chill because I'm not gonna be able to play all
Yeah.
these. So I narrowed it down to like 7 games, and I'll talk about them later in the show. Maybe more detail, but just to kind of knock them out now, one of them was called Pacific Drive, which is a survival game where you're basically driving a beat up kind of car that looks like something from like National Lampoon's Vacation, basically. And I guess I don't really play too many survival games, but in this one you got to like build up your car, like fix the door, repair the tires, things like that, and gather supplies while you're in this weird environmental zone that was kind of like a research area for several decades, and some accident happened or something went wrong where they actually closed it off. And the game takes place in the Pacific Northwest. So it's kind of like, the Washington area kind of looks like, so lots of forests and stuff. And basically you as the character get sucked into this weird environment where like it's just like a sci-fi dystopian setting where like matter doesn't really matter, and things can like change your body and change items and objects in the environment. So you're kind of in the demo, you're kind of going through this stuff and learning about the mechanics and fixing up your car, things like that. I thought it was really great. The other game I played is Crypt Custodian, which is a overhead Metroidvania platformer type game where you play as a cat named Pluto that gets sent to the afterlife. And in the afterlife, poor Pluto, was sentenced to be a janitor for eternity. So it's kind of like a humor side to it. But the animations are great. The combat was really good. I really liked the demo. Really liked the game. It's coming out in 2024. I think I'm going to download that for sure. You can check that one out. That sounds interesting. Again, good writing, good platforming. Combat felt really solid. Really great stuff. Another game I played was Anti-Paint, which is a Vampire Survivors type game, a roguelike game where you're basically playing that type of Vampire Survivors gameplay, but you're a paintbrush and you're making different works of art, your own creative art based on the enemy colors that you're destroying and the different palettes you can use. Really creative game. It's made by one guy who was a Lithuanian
Oh
developer.
wow.
I really like it. If you like those roguelike games, the Vampire Survivor types, like check this one out because I thought it was like super creative. And there's like boss fights in the game that are like separate levels where you fight like different famous artworks throughout history. And one of them is like Mona Lisa. The other one is like a painting of Napoleon that comes alive, like Napoleon's on a horse. So it was like really creative, really funny. The power ups are really interesting. I thought it was a really, really cool game. Um, So check that one out if you're into like those Vampire Survivor roguelike, twin stick dual shooter type games. Another game I played going through this list was called Hollow Body. So that's one word. And this is another game that's coming out in 2024. It's made by just one guy. So it's pretty impressive. It's like from a British developer at his own studio. And this is like a love letter to early 2000s survival horror games on like that PlayStation 2 era. Kind of like if you're thinking of like the main ones like Silent Hill 2 and 3. But there was a lot of games back then that had that similar aesthetic and play style of survival horror. This is basically just like that. You play as a woman who, it's kind of like at a futuristic setting, so you're kind of like in a hover vehicle, and the vehicle crashes in the city, and you are a woman who is looking for her partner, who I guess they're like black market shippers,
Hmm.
and your partner's disappeared, and you're looking for her in this weird city, and it's all like dystopian, and everyone's like dead, and
Oh,
you're kind
wow.
of coming across like all these bodies and stuff. I thought it was really great. The combat was kind of like on the weaker side, but the environments were good. There was a lot of voice acting as far as like the main character, which was, I thought was interesting.
How's the
Like
voice
really
acting?
good voice acting,
Oh, really? It's good.
really good, really good. Um, Again, it's more like a British type themed game, so I think the voice actor was also, she was British,
Hmm.
but yeah, it has the graphics of like a PS2 survival horror game from like the early 2000s, and the guy even developer even says like that was one of his main inspirations. But I
It's
like the
cool.
environments. I like the game style. Like I said, the only weaker aspect was the combat a bit. It really didn't have like a lot of meat to it. Um, it was serviceable, but not like amazing or anything. But the game definitely was kind of freaky, and they kind of nailed the environment down. So I did like that. Check that out, Hollow Body
Hollow Body.
on Steam. And going through the list, I got a couple more here. Again, like this is the most demos I played in my entire
Did you go
life.
to Pizza Hut?
I should have, dude. Like popped in like a demo
Demo
disc into my
disc, yeah.
computer or something. No, these are all free downloads, so it's even better. But um, the next game is like probably one of my most anticipated games going into this year. It's called Harold Halibut. So it's basically the guy's name who is the main character of this particular game. And everyone should really check this out because just from like a graphical presentation style, the game is completely 100% like handcrafted. So the character models, the environments, the rooms, even like the objects in the game are all handcrafted like dolls, basically. And the game looks like it looks like a stop motion movie, but it's a video game.
Oh,
Really,
wow.
really, really cool.
I it,
And
this is coming out on PS5 too, right?
it's coming out on
Oh,
everything. Yeah,
wow.
consoles, PC on Steam, Xbox Game Pass as well.
Because I've heard,
So
yes, this game, yeah, all right, I know what you're talking about. Yes, this looks incredible.
yeah, the it's basically like an adventure game. So you're playing as this character Harold, who is like a research assistant for a woman who's an older scientist, and it's kind of like set in the future. So basically, this ship called the Fedora crash landed onto an ocean planet, and it's currently underwater. Basically, the crew like 250 years ago fled Earth because of like the Cold War. So you're thinking like 1970s, 1980s. They fled Earth and eventually crashed on this foreign planet. It's underwater, and the ship's been there since then. But like, there's kind of rumblings in the community that, well, maybe we can leave this place and find somewhere new to live, because they're basically in these like living in like these tubes basically that connect all the ships together and stuff. So it's not like the greatest life, but they've been there for like 250 years, so it's like the only thing they know. So throughout the demo, I think the demo I played was like for like almost like 2 hours. You're kind of just going through the beginning of the game, meeting a lot of the characters, and really learning about the ship's history and like the potential to maybe leave. And the demo kind of ends at like with like a cliffhanger like that, like, oh, like, yeah, maybe there's more to the story than they're letting on. But the gameplay itself was good for like that adventure type game. It's not point and click; like you control the characters and talk to different people and move up the stairs and go through different rooms and stuff. So you're fully in control of the main character Harold. But the animation style and the graphics and the voice acting is really great too. Like all the characters have voice acting. It's really a tremendous game. This one's coming from a studio called Slow Bros, who are an independent studio from Germany, and they've been working on this game since at least 2011, 2012.
Oh, wow.
So that's how long it takes to like put all this stuff into a video game and capture it and make all the dolls and character models and rooms and environments. Like they have like videos on YouTube you can check out, like developer diaries, where they're literally like sawing down wood and like making like little houses and little rooms and stuff. It's really tremendous, like how creative this game is, and it's fun too. Like from the gameplay side, I really enjoyed it. Um, like I said, more of an adventure type of game. that you're kind of going through the story and meeting the characters. But really funny game, really creative, and I can't wait to play the full version when that comes out at some point. So, but yeah, that was Harold Halibut, and I got two more games on this list. The next one is a yeah, I'm getting through it, man. The next one is Mullet Mad Jack. So this is a first person shooter with a different twist to it, where it's set in this like Japanese anime 1980s 1990s style. Kind of looks like a VHS tape of like an anime from that period. And basically in the demo and through the story so far, you have to save this princess that's been captured. And the gameplay, you basically go through these 10 levels at a time. So every 10 levels you fight a boss, and each level has like a unique twist to it where you have to kill each enemy before 10 seconds runs out, because if you don't, the game's over. So every time you kill an enemy, it replenishes it by like, depending on what difficulty you're on, like 3 to 5 seconds. I was playing on normal, so for each kill I got like 3 seconds. But if you run out of time, like from a 10-second counter, the level's over and you have to restart. So even if you get to like level 5, for example, and you either die from no health or the time runs out, you revert back to the first stage. So it's pretty challenging. At the end of each level, you can kind of get upgrades like a samurai sword or faster speed or, you know, exploding bullets or something like that. So there's different weapons you can get, like a machine gun or a shotgun. And when you get to the second floor, you can actually get those weapons to level 2, so they're more powerful. But at the end of each stage on level 10 is a boss fight. But I found like the actual levels to be harder because the boss fight you have like a lot more room and you're not on that time crunch.
Mm-hmm.
But each of the levels is basically, if you don't meet that time crunch, you're dead. So
Okay.
you're just like running through this game quick as you can, trying to kill all the enemies. And the art style is like tremendous as well. Definitely has that old school anime cartoon look. They really nailed that down. And this is coming from a Brazilian developer named Hammer 95 Studios. I believe there's only like 3 people making the game on the team. So that's pretty interesting. And that's coming out to be determined. They don't have like an exact release date. I believe it's 2024 maybe, but nothing concrete. And the last game I played is a game called Indica, which is a super weird game where you play as a nun in
What?
19th century Russia. Yeah, that's what I said. But it's one of these like it's a serious game. So it's like not an artsy game, but it's definitely unique. So you're basically in the demo, you're playing as this nun and you're accompanying like some sort of criminal that's like holding her hostage, but she's also going along with it as they try to get to like some sort of location. I don't know if it's like a church or a certain building or something like that, but they're basically going through like this wintry area of Russia. And the gameplay was okay. It reminded me of like Hellblade, the first Hellblade game, that type of gameplay. We're kind of walking around and stuff. There wasn't any combat. It was more like solving puzzles and things. But the story is interesting. It does do some weird stuff. I guess I'm playing as a nun. That's pretty weird in itself. I don't think that too many games do that. But it's more of like a serious game, but it's got this weird um, sense of humor to it as well. Like she's like hearing like a voice that's like being critical of her decisions and questioning her faith and things like that. Um, so yeah, this is it's kind of interesting too as far as like the backstory because it's made by a team of Russian developers who actually had to flee the country after Russia invaded Ukraine. So following the events of that, they all fled the country to another location to kind of continue the development of that. And the publisher is a Polish publishing company that kind of stuck with them and throughout the game. So interesting story, interesting game and inspiration. It's not like a game that you would see all the time, but I enjoyed the demo and I kind of want to play the full game to see like where the story goes. It was just so off the wall, not off the wall in a bad way, but like you just don't see too many games like this.
Yeah. Which was your favorite
So
demo out of
that
all of these?
man, my favorite. Oof, that's well, the game I'm like most looking forward to probably is Harold Halibut, but like the demo wise, it really sold me on the game was Pacific Drive
Oh wow.
because Pacific Drive I'd known about it before because it's coming out relatively soon, February 22nd. It's also coming out on PlayStation 5 as well. But so I kind of knew what the game was about. I haven't really played too many of that style. But once I played it, I was like hooked. And I was like, I might get this when it comes out. So I think that was probably
The best. That's good.
the best one. But all these games are really, really fun. They are currently available to download as a demo through February 12th. But also check them out, wishlist them so you can get updates on them. And they also are coming. Some of these are coming to consoles too. So you'll, like I said, Pacific Drive's on PS5. Um, Harold Halibut's coming to consoles. Indica is going to be on consoles as well. I think the other games are at least have some sort of console component too. So different avenues to play besides Steam. But those are the 7 games I played for Steam Next Fest. I guess I basically talked about them, so we don't have to talk about them later. But that was that was all of them. I don't think I'll ever play that many demos again in a single week.
Did you go blind
So
at the end? No.
no, not blind, but I was like, man, that's a lot of demos.
Yeah.
I gotta spend a lot of money on these
Yeah.
games because I had like I said, I think I went like when I started, I had like up to almost 20 games I wanted to play, and I'm like, I can't do that this week. It's the thing with the Steam Next Fest too. A lot of these demos will go away; they won't be available anymore. But some of the developers are keeping them up, I guess, on a case by case basis.
Okay.
So if you're interested in the game, go ahead and check that out before next Monday. But moving on, as I mentioned earlier, Death Stranding. What do you think about it, Lewis?
It's still a weird game. It's my second go around with it. I actually played it a little bit longer than the last time I played it the first time. How are you getting through the game? Because I kind of, when I walk around making deliveries, I kind of have to put on a podcast to listen just to get to the delivery package. You think Amazon workers are doing that?
Yeah, so are you listening to our show while you're playing the game? Is that what
Of
you're
course,
doing?
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I love our
Got to
voice.
plug the show. You got to plug at the show
That's
anytime
right.
you get. I actually started this game last December or maybe November. I think I was in between games. I was in between Spider-Man 2 and Alan Wake 2.
Hmm.
And I think once those games came out, I stopped playing Death Stranding. So I had played the first maybe hour or two at that time. Went back the past week since we did the last show and played maybe 2 to 3 more hours.
Hmm.
So actually getting into the gameplay aspect and out of the weird story aspects, right? Where you literally have no idea what's going on in the first like hour or two, like no idea.
Yeah,
Like it's impossible to figure out what's going on. They throw like so many made up words at you, and this you don't know why this United States of America is totally destroyed, and there's babies in tubes, and you don't know what is going
yeah.
on.
It's very strange.
Um,
But I'll say
mhm.
this: gameplay wise, when you're making the deliveries, it is very boring. But at least whenever you come across enemies, the game does get fun. And that's one thing Kojima does best is like whenever you are near enemies and you have to take them out, it is fun. But that large gap where you're just carrying, holding L2 and R2, making sure you don't trip over so your cargo goes, and like for example, I was in the river and everything just fell out and had to collect everything.
Mhm.
It does get annoying at times, but
Mhm.
that's the spirit of being a delivery boy, apparently. Um,
And I don't. Maybe I missed this, but I don't get what's the deal with the delivery stuff. Like, why is he doing? I don't understand. Like, why he's doing this is because like the whole planet's is messed up and nobody else can do
it's
it, or I
weird.
don't get it. Like,
I wish I could answer your question, Tim, but I'm just like,
mm,
like everyone who watched the trailer, what's going on?
mm,
You know,
yeah,
it's not a bad game. It's just I can't put my finger on it. It's just Kojima sold me on this second trailer for the second game, and it made me go back to this game, and I'm giving it a chance. I'm trying to push myself through it, and not in a bad way, and like because I did push myself through Assassin's Creed 1, and that game left a bad taste in my mouth. Just the ending was good, and that was it. Because I do want to know about these characters in Death Stranding and how they were presented in the second game on the beach. In the trailers, it's like I want to know more about these characters, but it's just there's really not that much that they're giving me so far in the game where I'm at least. I kind of hope things start happening soon. I'm having a lot of questions about the baby. because he has flashbacks, and you as the character, Norman Reedus, you're seeing what the baby sees in his flashbacks, and yeah,
Yeah, and the flashbacks are with like a completely different person.
yeah, you don't know
Like there was some other man that you don't.
that's their
Who's the
dad, I
actor?
believe.
It's a famous actor too. I can't think of the guy's name offhand. But yeah, it was like you're seeing the cutscenes and you're like, okay, it's not Norman Reedus. How is this happening? Where he's getting these,
Yeah. Now,
you know?
now, what do you think of the game so far?
Well, I'm like I said, probably like 4 hours in total since like playing from last year.
Yeah.
So I do like I don't know I kind of like the gameplay loop. To be honest,
Really?
I it's for now. Yeah, I mean for now. I think the story gets a little bit better because they've been explaining more stuff. But that first hour or two is like rough because you have like no idea what's. I mean, they're throwing like so many fake words at you
Yeah.
that you're just like supposed to know. It's like, did I miss something?
It's
Did I
it,
miss another game
it's
I
the
was supposed to
class.
play? Or
It's the classic Kojima weirdness, right?
it really. I mean, this is like weird to like the 10th degree, but
Oh yeah.
I do like the sci-fi setting. Learning more about what's going on with like the United States and why it's all destroyed and stuff. We don't know that yet, but I did notice like once you actually get into like the gameplay, through it's kind of like through tutorials and different like in-game dialogue from certain characters, like you start learning more about okay, what does this term mean, or what does this mean when the whole sky goes crazy and
Yeah.
there's like black like
Oil. Who
seepage or what I don't
knows?
know what it is, oil. Yeah, like so you start getting more and more details, but I do like the gameplay loop so far. I'm gonna keep playing it because I do want to get more into the story. But yeah, like Norman Reedus is basically what is his name, like Sam in the game or
Yes.
something?
Sam Bridges.
Yeah, but it's Sam Bridges, but that's not really his name. It's like Sam Porter
Porter.
Bridges or something. I
He's the
don't
son
know.
of the
It's
president.
Yeah, he's the son of the president of the United States of America, which is weird. And he's out there delivering Amazon packages. I feel like you're like the president's kid. You get like a little
Uh, you-
better life
yeah,
thing.
at least Secret Service.
Yeah, this guy's like out there like dying,
Dying,
like
taking
threatening,
humongous bumps off the mountains and all that.
and it's weird. They just do so many weird games. Like they have like in the Death Stranding world, they have to like incinerate every dead body within like a relatively short time, or something crazy
Yeah.
happens where like the whole city explodes or
Yeah.
something.
A crater.
I don't know what. hmm So a lot of that stuff we don't get, but Norman Reedus. I mean, his name is Sam or whatever, but he's playing Norman Reedus. He's literally playing, like you mentioned last week. He's playing Daryl Dixon from The
Yeah,
Walking
he
Dead.
literally is. Yeah.
Just play that. Just think of that character. Like they ask him to do like, Sam, are you going to help rebuild America? He's like, nah, man, it ain't for me. he's
Yeah.
just like, he's
He
like,
gives
but
that
then like
look.
5 minutes, yeah, like 5 minutes later, he's like, all right, I'm in. Like, all right.
Yeah.
It's like,
I
so if you ever watch The Walking Dead, it's like those early seasons of like Daryl Dixon. Like he's got that
yeah.
attitude, but like deep down, he just wants to cry. You know?
Yeah, I like again, it's not a bad game. I like the game. It's just, there's just
Mm.
the large gap of, delivering. I just put on something so I can and Kojima does too.
Yeah,
He plays music for you, right? But sometimes you're kind of like, I'm not really digging this, so I just put my own music.
yeah. He does have. I believe. I think they're licensed music from the actual
Yeah.
artist, but he does play music as you're kind of walking in this like terrain of the United
Uh,
States.
yeah.
Like in the mountain area or like grassy areas. Like he play like a song would just come up, and it's like people I'd never heard of.
Yeah.
So it's probably like he's got on
His favorite
his
Spotify
pod.
list. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's good
Yeah, it's
music,
not bad music.
but
No, it's good. It
I
does
don't,
fit
I
in.
don't, mhm. I don't know if they would be people that like more mainstream artists, or they're kind of more like underground
Hmm.
music because I'm not really aware of it. But they do fit the game's kind of, I guess, tone.
So one thing I do want to note is on the PS4 version whenever I bought it, um, I noticed that they had the Monster sponsorship, and that's totally absent in this version.
It's weird. Like, so there was like a scene I played where he's in his like little save room or whatever,
Yeah,
and he's basically he's got his bed there, he's got his suits and all this stuff, and you can use like the
yeah,
bathroom. so you could take a shower. And when the shower door closed, an advertisement for his like AMC show came up.
That's right. The ride or something,
Right along or
something like
something,
that.
where he's
Yeah.
basically like,
Oh my.
yeah, it
Oh
was
wait,
like,
that's still
okay,
on there.
it was for me
Really?
as of last week. Yeah, that was a big advertisement on the
Oh
thing
my
for
god,
AMC.
that's crazy.
So I'm not sure that show is still on, but it's kind of like that in game, like breaking the fourth
Yeah,
wall.
yeah, yeah. It's kind of weird that they took. Well, Monster probably was like, just a one-time deal and that's it, because it was very
Mm-hmm.
noticeable for me. Especially whenever you do
Mm-hmm.
pick up the energy drinks. Whenever you're in the save room, he exaggerates it. Whenever you know how people exaggerate drinking an energy drink, they kind of just tilt their head back and then they lift their legs up. You know. But yeah, that's one thing I noted right away whenever I played this version. And the next game I played is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth demo. Um, I am very hyped for this game. This is actually part of the first chapter, I believe, this demo, and it was amazing. I loved it. It was a beautiful game. I'll just leave it at that. I don't want to spoil nothing for Tim because Tim doesn't want to be spoiled here, but I'll just say it feels more open. The graphics are amazing. The character models are just incredible to look at. The environment is so colorful and beautiful, and I'm excited for this game, Tim. I think this might be my game of the year, believe it or not.
Yeah, so even though I played about 15 demos in the past week, this demo I did not play. I have this weird thing where I don't want to be like spoiled on like kind of like games I'm looking forward to. So I kind of just want to go into it not knowing, just the basics and stuff. But maybe I should change my mind about that and start playing some of these demos. But that's kind of the reason why I didn't want to play it. I knew Lewis was going to play it
Mm-hmm.
and let me know how it was.
Oh, it's great. The combat's awesome. Who you control in the demo is amazing. I didn't see that coming. I do want to make note. There is another demo coming out for the Junon area, and this won't carry on to the main game whenever it releases. So you're gonna get some bonus items if you play this and you carry on with the save in the main game, you will receive some bonus items. I don't know what though. I couldn't find anything.
And that's for this current demo,
Current
right?
demo, yeah. But the
Okay.
Junon area, which is another portion, they will update this. I guess you call it a game file. You download from the PlayStation Store. They will update it and they'll add the Junon area sometime maybe this month. Who knows?
Okay, well that's cool. I guess more content before the game because the game comes out at the end of the month.
Yeah, 29th.
So, right, PS5
Oh,
exclusive.
it's amazing, guys! This game, I cannot wait.
Yeah, the first game from a couple of years ago, the first part was really awesome. So I'm kind of expecting this one to be even better.
Yeah, I do want to make note. Like that one felt more like. Let me ask you. So whenever you played Remake, did you feel like that was more linear whenever you were walking, not in battle mode, but as you're walking through the environments?
From what I remember, yeah, it was pretty more straightforward.
So
yeah.
this game, it's like everything feels open. You're not contained. It feels really good. The more
so that's a big shift from
the more really did because now the world map is here for this game. So it's I can't wait.
Right, which you didn't have in the first game yet because they didn't really open up the game yet. So that's interesting. Yeah, this is going to be another 100-hour JRPG.
Oh my gosh,
is it?
I know,
right?
100 hours.
Oh man, but this definitely looks awesome. Definitely, probably the big game release of the year so far at the end of the month. Or definitely one of the early big ones.
Yeah, we got to start out 2024 hot.
So all right, well, it's good to hear that the demo kind of got you more excited for the game, which is like what it should do, right? Yes. And it's cool that it transfers over as well. So
I do want to say that there's a part of the game that kind of went viral so you can control the piano in Tifa's room, right? And people are like doing music from Kingdom Hearts and anything you can name of, so that kind of went viral.
It's like Elton John.
Yeah, Elton John. Yeah, literally.
Really, for real? Like
you can. Yeah, they actually have a whole The whole thing of piano. You were asking me about if I'm gonna get into like get the rock band stuff. The peripherals. Here I am playing piano a week later.
I'd say I knew you would. We need a piano guy though in the
Yeah,
band.
that's gonna
Like
be me
like
probably.
those old like 70s rock bands. They used to have like piano
Yeah.
players. That's what we should get. All right, well that's the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth demo and what we've been playing for the past week, and then kind of moving on to the next section here, some TV and movie news. So we recorded the last episode last Thursday night, and the following day, Friday, February 2nd, it was announced that Carl Weathers had passed away at age 76. So rest in peace to him.
An
Seemed like a
icon.
kind of sudden, definitely an icon. Seemed kind of sudden because I don't know if he was in the news for any health related issues or whatever, but um, played so many awesome characters from Apollo Creed and Rocky. He was in Predator. Later on, he was in Happy Gilmore, which was an iconic
Yeah.
role. Recently, he was in The
Wow.
Mandalorian. I didn't know. I forgot he was in Arrested Development too.
He
He
was?
had some.
Oh
Yeah,
my
he had like
god.
some really great lines from that. I think he was in a movie with Hulk Hogan too.
Oh.
Did you ever see that one?
No.
Like it was like a cheesy action movie. Okay, yes, he was in a lot of stuff. Um, he actually was a football player before his acting career, which I didn't know either. And according to one of his obituaries on Deadline, he appeared in more than 75 films and TV shows during a 50-year career.
Incredible.
So that's pretty crazy. Like I said, his most recent stuff was The Mandalorian
Yeah.
on Disney Plus. He was one of, yeah, I would say one of the main characters, right?
Yes.
A
Yes.
reoccurring character.
Yeah, he's a he's a
Um,
he's a large icon in the fitness industry. A lot of people in the gym look up to him. Whenever you're scrolling on
is
TikTok, you hear those words. There is no tomorrow. Oh, just awesome. He's great. He was great.
isn't he in like the GIF where like the two muscle arms are like
Yeah.
shaking hand, like him and
Yeah,
Schwarzenegger, right?
Dylan, you SOB, and then that slap, and you see those biceps just vein up. Yeah, amazing guy, man.
Yeah,
He's such a
was
great guy.
I think that was from Predator,
I
right?
think so.
I don't
Yeah.
remember. Yeah, but I think probably his most iconic role that was Apollo
Apollo
Creed,
Creed.
which was awesome, great,
Oh,
fantastic. But I loved him too in Happy Gilmore because he played like Happy's like
yeah,
coach, like golf
yeah.
coach, and his hand was all crippled and stuff, and he had like a feud with like an alligator. But he was a really great
He had a
like
lot of
versatile
range. He had a lot of
actor.
range.
So really sad about his passing again. Rest in peace. But definitely left a lasting
Yeah,
legacy
he sure did.
with so many great movies
Hmm.
and shows, and there's so much cool stuff. What a great cool guy. Like just
Yeah,
all the
inspiring.
roles he played.
Yeah, inspiring. He's very
Hmm
inspiring.
So moving on to just some regular normal news outside of that, sad passing of Carl Weathers. Jim Carrey is coming out of retirement for of all movies, Sonic 3. So he's going to play the same character, Dr. Robotnik, that he's played in the prior two movies. And the movie's coming out in theaters on December 20th of this year.
Oh wow.
Just interesting because Jim Carrey announced he was going to be retiring from acting in early 2022, and now he's coming back for Sonic. So
I think I don't think anybody else can play Robotnik. He's really okay. I'll be honest. The Sonic movies aren't Sega Sonic movies. It's Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey's Sonic. That's gonna be the serious name. Jim Carrey's Sonic. He was amazing.
mhm.
He stole every scene, and I think the second movie he just took it a step further and made it like the Jim Carrey franchise. I, I'm not surprised that he's coming back. Honestly,
Do you think they open up the pay window for him? And be like, here's a ton of money, come back for Sonic 3, or do you think he like
I
wanted to
don't
do
know
it
because
just because?
he's turned down a lot of roles down before. I think he does care about this franchise. He probably saw. I mean, I know the first one came out right before the pandemic hit, and I guess during that period, because I do remember going to see that movie in the theater right before the pandemic hit. That movie was awesome to me, right? And it did leave a lasting impact because it was kind of like, I just saw Sonic, and now we're just stuck here at home and whatnot. Maybe it stuck with him. Maybe he said, "Hey, during the hardest of times, I did this franchise before, the world went to, heck. I'll come back for this.
Yeah, I don't know the reasoning, but definitely he's like one of my favorite actors.
Yeah,
So
he's
like I
great.
like his stuff. So yeah, Sonic 3. Look for that. Jim Carrey coming out. Moving on to we talked about the Mandalorian just a little bit ago, and one of the shows that's on. That's one of the shows that's on Disney Plus. And in Disney Plus news, they just announced that they lost 1.3 million subscribers in the last
Oh my
quarter,
God.
ending December 23, which seems like a lot, right?
Yeah, it's over a month.
A
Yeah.
lot of people, and I guess they keep losing subs every quarter. And according to this Variety article that we'll link in the show notes, they have a streaming loss of $300 million between October and December 2023. That seems like an insane amount of money to
Yeah.
lose.
So this is
Like,
this is like
like how
right
is that sustainable?
this is right after the price increase too.
Right. Yeah, they've been bumping up the prices, and the article goes on to say that collectively Disney totaled 149 149.6 million streaming subscribers across the two services at the close of 2023, dipping slightly from an overall of 150.2 million
Wow.
the prior quarter. I believe they're talking about the different tiers
Yeah.
for Disney Plus. And the article says that Disney projects adding between 5.5 million and 6 million subscribers to Disney Plus Core by the end of its current quarter, which runs
I
January to
I,
March. I don't know how they're
I
going
don't
to do
see
that.
anything coming out that's gonna entice people to get Disney Plus at all.
No, especially that if they lost 1.3 million, like how are they going to get
Yeah.
six people
There's
to get?
there's nothing. There's absolutely nothing announced that's gonna make me. I mean, I have it right now, but the only reason why is because of my son. But I'm just saying, like, if I didn't have a child, I wouldn't. I'd cut it right away. There's nothing that's enticing.
Mm-hmm. Plus, they're doing a lot of it seems crossover with like the Hulu stuff that they own too. Like
Yeah,
Echo was on Hulu, so
which I
I
didn't know
mean,
until
I
you
just
told
watched
me.
that on.
I was like, what?
Yeah,
Really?
I just watched it on Hulu. I'm not going to sign up for another Disney thing. The only Disney show like I'm even like remotely interested, but it's coming out next year that we know about is that Daredevil Born Again.
Yeah,
But anything now, like I don't me either. I'm really not interested in what they have on there. Um,
yeah.
but that did seem like a lot, and like I said, it just the streaming model doesn't seem sustainable, especially when you're losing hundreds of millions of dollars in one quarter. It's not even for like the
I
year or
know
like
it's
lifetime. It's
ridiculous. That's after the
one
price
quarter.
increase.
But
People don't want to pay, more for like less content, and they remove content too. People forget that.
yeah, and speaking of removing content on
Yeah.
another streaming
Uh,
platform, so a movie that was supposed to come out last year and never did, basically just disappeared, is Coyote versus Acme. Now it's come out that the movie's probably never going to come out. So, according to TheWrap.com, they had a story that was published a little bit earlier that the live action animated kind of hybrid movie starring Will Forte and guys like John Cena and some other characters, it's probably never going to come out. So, the movie was actually being shopped around. Kind of just seemed like a, all right, we'll shop this around because people are complaining about it type thing. Because I remember like when the news broke like last year, like people were so pissed. It's like, why did you make this movie and we can't even watch it? Like,
yeah,
you're not putting it in theaters, you're not putting it in
like
streaming, you're basically
Batgirl.
putting it in like a vault, just like Batgirl. Yeah, Warner Brothers, who kind of distributes both of the films, and so Warner wanted 75 to 80 million dollars for it, according to this article from TheWrap.com. Their tax write off for the movie, which is like, so insane to me that these companies can just write off movies and get 40 million off their taxes. They wanted 35 to 40 million as a tax write off, which is what they're
Wow.
going to do for Batgirl too.
Yeah.
Like that should be illegal. Like that should be not something that
Yeah.
happens that corporations can do. Because they could release the movie and make money, they just don't want to. So it kind of came out that the Warner Brothers head, David Zaslav, hadn't even watched the movie when he made the decision to like just kind of can this. So I don't know what his deal is, but apparently according to this article, that the movie itself had gotten like great reviews from like test audiences. So it wasn't more of like a quality thing. I don't know what the issue is
Yeah,
for this movie not coming out, but
so strange.
apparently like they didn't let streaming companies like Netflix, Amazon, and Paramount do like counter offers. So whatever they offered to Warner, like Warner wasn't like, okay, but we'll do it for X amount of money. I think they just want that tax write off. Like they don't even want the movie to come out.
Sad
So
situation.
it
Lost media
it
is
seems
never a
like,
good thing.
yeah, especially when it like could have been good, or it sounds like it was good. Like I
Yeah,
would have checked this
great
out.
reviews from test
Like why not?
audiences, you know.
But yeah, this is not going to come to Max. It's presumably at this point, it seems like it's dead in the
It's
water.
gone. It's a goner.
It's kind of stupid when the guy that owns the company is not even watching these movies that he's making decisions on. And I don't know like what the deal with that is. Like you just spend all this money on the movie and then like you're not even going to watch it to see if like okay, well, put it out. They just want the tax write off.
Yeah, it's some strange behavior on his
Apparently,
end, honestly.
yeah. So if you're looking forward to that movie, it's probably not going to happen. So, but
And it sounded great,
that's
honestly.
up.
It
It did
sounded,
sound. It sounded pretty cool. Yeah. And then another show that's on a streaming platform. I really like the show. I'm not sure if you watch it, Lewis, but Silo
not
is
yet.
finishing season. Have you seen this, Silo?
Not yet.
Not yet. So this is basically the news is Silo the season 2 filming is ending this March, and season 1 of Silo took place between May and June 2023 on Apple TV Plus for I believe about 10 episodes, and the filming and stuff was delayed due to the recent strike that happened at the end of last year. But the main character is played by Rebecca Ferguson, who made comments to Collider, kind of like letting it slip that filming was going to be ending soon. And I think they believe that they said the show was probably going to come out maybe next year. That was kind of their inference of that. But she plays the main character, Juliet Nichols, who is in this weird dystopian kind of like Fallout vault style where there's like a whole community in silos, like the name of the show.
Mm-hmm.
But they have these weird rules where you can't use like certain technology from like the old world and you can get thrown in prison. And if you like break rules or something, or say you want to leave the silo, they actually like throw you out. And everybody watches the person being thrown out. Like they give them like a bodysuit with like a breathing mechanism and stuff. And everybody that goes out, you know, it's revealed in like the first episode, like everybody just kind of like dies. So like nobody wants to go out because they're like, oh, we're watching this public thing, everybody dies. Let's just stay inside and listen to like the leaders type thing.
Mm-hmm.
It was a tremendous show. It's like probably one of my favorite streaming shows ever. I love the show. It was so awesome, and it's based on a book series too, which from what I remember, the I haven't read the books, but just reading about them, like they're kind of different from the show.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a series of different novels that were released a while back. But yeah, the show. This is one of my most like anticipated shows to come back.
So
So I'm kind of happy they're
are
wrapping
you
up.
gonna resub to Apple?
I'm still subbed. Yeah, I still have a free
Until
thing
April.
from like on PlayStation. Yeah, but I'm gonna keep paying for it. I think because like, Apple has like really good shows
Mm-hmm.
that I like that I want to keep watching. So definitely for this, I want to watch the. You should watch this. The
Oh
Silo.
yeah,
You
for
would like
sure I
it.
will. Yeah, I'll
This is a really good show.
probably watch this after I go over What If. For sure.
And in Silo too, just kind of like the reveals and stuff are like crazy. Like the more you watch it, I think I just binge watched it because it was like each episode was like more
Oh
crazy and more
wow,
intense. You just wanted to find out what is actually going
Breaking
on,
Bad style.
and yeah, and then the actual ending is like insane.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're interested in like dystopian sci-fi, great thriller, it's kind of have this like it has this like detective element to it as well. Watch the show. It's on Apple TV Plus because like if you like any of that stuff I mentioned, you'll like Silo. And she is tremendous as the main character, Rebecca Ferguson.
Mm-hmm.
She's also played, she's been in Mission Impossible. I think she's been filming. She was in Dune, and she's filming the sequel as well. So she's if you see her face, like you'll recognize her in some of the movies that she's done. But even like the rest of the cast in Silo had really fantastic actors. So, but that's gonna wrap up the TV and movie news, and we're gonna move on to the probably the biggest gaming news
Possibly,
in
yeah.
the last one of the last biggest gaming news ever. Definitely in the past several years, right? I mean,
Decades, I think,
huge
at this
huge
point.
news, right? So what we're talking about, which we referenced at the beginning of the show, is that there is a ton of rumors swirling around the Xbox and what is going on with the Xbox brand and its future. So, as we kind of alluded to last Sunday night, actually, or Sunday evening, night, the whole day, a lot of rumors started coming out that major, formerly Xbox exclusive games that you could only play on, Xbox Series S or X consoles, as far as like hardware on the home console side, we're probably going to go multi-platform to consoles like PlayStation 5 and Nintendo Switch. So originally, we kind of knew that Microsoft was potentially going to start bringing games like Hi-Fi Rush and Sea of Thieves to multi-platform consoles to its competitors. That was kind of leaked out in January,
Hmm.
and people were like, "Well, Hi-Fi Rush is that came out last year, not a major game, but it was kind of like a stealth launch on Game Pass." And Sea of Thieves has been out for several years, so it's like, okay, well, what's going on here? Why is Xbox suddenly moving these games to potentially PS5 and Nintendo Switch? And then like Sunday, like all these other rumors started coming out. People were confirming those, and one of the rumors was that Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, which they just announced in January. We actually did a
Yeah,
show on the Xbox Developer Direct that
half
they talked
half a
about.
month ago.
So that was supposed to be an Xbox exclusive and also on PC on Steam, but it was primarily going to be on Xbox platforms. Then the rumors were like, well, this game's going to come out on Xbox, but it's going to be potentially delayed for other platforms, maybe several months later. It's like, well, that's one of the biggest games that they have going this year. Is going to be multi-platform after a couple of years. And then it started with Starfield. Starfield's potentially one of the games rumored now to come to PlayStation 5, which is funny because before Bethesda got bought by Xbox, it actually was going to be on PlayStation. I believe they canceled that version, or it was in development, and they just moved everything to Xbox because it became an Xbox exclusive. And then there was other rumors about Gears of War potentially even coming to PlayStation consoles. That's something one of uh, game media people, I believe it was Jeff Grubb, he posted about that um, as a potential thing that he maybe could be happening. So basically, with this, the news leaked internally. The story goes, so you got to follow along with this because there's so much going on with this Xbox story the past week. The news leaked internally. So somebody from Microsoft or Xbox team leaked it to let me get the guy's name here. Xbox ERA. So it's xboxera.com. And also talked to Tom Warren of The Verge. So a couple different avenues that they were discussing this, leaking the Starfield news and Indiana Jones, and kind of confirming other rumors about Hi-Fi Rush. So the news was leaked internally. I don't think they anticipated that coming out like that. Um, Microsoft was going to originally have some sort of business meeting at the end of February that was supposed to kind of talk about potentially what's going on with Xbox and multi-platform stuff. That got bumped up to now this upcoming week. So Sunday it was complete silence, right? Nothing, nobody heard anything. Monday, Phil Spencer, who is the CEO of Microsoft Gaming, basically the face of Xbox, he basically oversees everything gaming related going on at Microsoft. He sent a tweet out on Monday, February 5th, and I'm just going to read the tweet here. It says, quote, "We're listening and we hear you. We've been planning a business update event for next week where we look forward to sharing more details with you about our vision for the future of Xbox. Stay tuned," end quote. So that just doesn't tell you anything, right? It doesn't make the rumors go away. It doesn't confirm it basically confirms the rumors without confirming the
Yeah, it's
rumors because he doesn't really say
he's like,
anything.
I'm not saying it's true,
But
but yeah.
and there was other stuff coming out. Cheap Ass Gamer, who is a video game website and social media kind of platform. They have platforms on that they do game deals, video game deals. They also are kind of involved in the retail space, so they kind of know what's going on there. From their Twitter/X account, they had posted something that a smaller publisher called Maximum Games releases for Xbox were all canceled through GameStop. So that kind of made people even more like when they saw that, like, what's going on? Like, why are these games getting canceled all of a sudden? And on top of that, all the kind of, I don't know, I'm not gonna Xbox influencers, I guess, is a nice way of putting that word. They were all freaking out on social media, like, oh, I'm done with Xbox. Xbox betrayed me, et cetera, et cetera. So you got the Xbox people, the hardcore fans freaking out. No one knows what's going on. People are speculating all sorts of things from, Xbox is dead. So, well, maybe it's just Hi-Fi Rush coming, or
Well,
Xbox is going all digital, or Xbox is going to stop the console thing. Like, nobody knows what is going
and I want to
on.
make a note. GameStop dropped the value today.
Yeah, GameStop the past week or so, they've been dropping the trade-in value of the Xbox Series consoles, which is kind of weird to do that in this news. So I think maybe usually I know, like, from when people are trading in a lot of stuff to GameStop, like, say for example, there's a good flip, right? Like, you can trade in the game for like $40 or something. So like you
Hmm.
just trade it in, right? You get the maximum value. If a lot of people trade something in, they do drop the values. Like, they'll get smart to it in some way, which kind of goes throughout all the
Yeah,
stores. So maybe that game you're getting $40 for, you're now going to get like 25,
yeah,
right? A lot of people would do like flip games, like say that you get a game super cheap at Best Buy or Target or GameStop itself, and like you flip it back to GameStop for like trading credit. That's been going on for years and years. But usually, like, they do, one of the reasons why they lower the trade credit is because of that. Like, a lot of people trading stuff in. Don't know if a lot of people were trading in, or they just kind of,
I think they got smartened up to it
you know.
because I got mines for 300. And
So you actually traded yours in after all this
yes,
stuff
yeah,
going on, right? Yeah, and then preface that, like, Lewis has never really cared for Xbox. So I don't know. I'm not gonna hate on the guy too much for like trading in the Xbox, because like he was like a lot of people, like, it's like, okay, what's going on with Xbox for years, right? So it was kind of just a console you had,
it was just collecting dust.
secondary
Yeah, well,
console, right? So
third
like,
because I've been playing with the Switch more. I mean, your
yeah.
Switch has had more software. You know,
Hmm.
that's one thing that stuck with me this whole time. Like in every era of gaming, software
Hmm.
drives the hardware. And I made a decision. I think I made a right decision. I mean, right now the pro value is at 275. I got mine for 300. The regular,
And that's GameStop Pro
yes,
membership, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
if you want to cash out, it's $192.50. And
Hmm.
if you're a regular person, the store credit's at 250, and cash is 175.
Hmm.
So something's definitely going on, and I made a conscious
It could
decision.
it could yeah, it could be, like I said, it could be a couple different things happening at once.
Hmm.
Um, but you tapped out of Xbox. You're done
Yeah,
with them for the
uh,
time being.
yeah. Phil's actually promised so much and hasn't delivered, and just not only him speaking. The studios, like for example, Bethesda, right? Redfall. What that was pretty bad.
Yeah, I believe that was Arcane. So that was the Dishonored
Hmm.
guys that made that. They just decided to make like a multiplayer game, which is like a weird switch.
Yeah,
But that came out last year in like kind of like the spring,
springtime.
early
Yeah,
part
May
of
or April, May around
2023.
there.
Yeah, around
Yeah,
there. First couple of
and
months.
then Starfield, right? And
Yeah. The
again, not a
thing, yeah,
bad game, not a bad
mhm.
game, but it wasn't the next step for Xbox that we all thought it was going to be. Okay,
Right. And the thing with Redfall was like that was supposed to be like the big heavy hitter for like the
early.
early part of
Hmm.
23, and it came out and people were just like all the reviews from the outlets were like very bad. I think it was in like the 60s or 70s for a
Yeah,
Metacritic or whatever. And it was so bad that like Phil Spencer, who like we mentioned is the CEO of Microsoft Gaming, been the face of the Xbox for the past
Decade.
10
Yeah.
years or so. He had to go on like he was on like the Kind of Funny podcast. He was on other doing interviews trying to put out the fire like, look, like this is what happened and we hear you and all this stuff and we're going to make changes. It's like, I mean, that was so bad the guy had to do like a media tour to like,
Apologize.
yeah, because like I think at that point people were like so fed up with like Xbox, like where are the games?
Yeah.
Like what is going on with this console? Because they really haven't had any success stories on the Series X
Exactly. Yeah.
since the console's launch, and it's been we're going on. It came out in 2021,
Yeah. Something like that.
or was it 2020?
2020.
Yeah, so it's been um, nothing since then, right? And they launched with Halo a year later,
Mm-hmm.
right? Halo was supposed to originally come out. Halo Infinite came out, and it was a disaster. So that's another game. And then 2022, I don't even know what came out. I can't
I
remember
can't name
anything
a
that came
thing.
out for Xbox. And meanwhile, you have like PlayStation firing on all cylinders. There's so many awesome games on the Switch,
Yeah.
and the Xbox Series X is just kind of sitting there like, where's the games,
It's done a worse job than the
right?
Wii U,
It's yeah, I would say it's pretty comparable as far as like
software wise.
I think the Wii U was just a complete misfire because they were coming off the Wii, but this is coming off. The Wii was like one of the most successful games consoles of all time,
Mm-hmm.
and this is coming off the Xbox One, which had one of the worst launches of all time and really kind of screwed them up.
Yeah, but here's
So,
the thing: they
mhm,
have now they own 23, right? But they had 22
mhm,
studios. Tim, where are the games?
mhm.
I,
Yeah, and this is like that was basically the sentiment for like a lot of hardcore Xbox fans, just people in general. It's like, okay, we're kind of getting tired of every year waiting for. We hear you. The games are coming. We're acquiring studios. We have all this stuff coming, and it seems like every time. I don't know if you've noticed this too. Every time Xbox gets any sort of momentum, like for example, I think with the developer direct that just happened a couple weeks
2 weeks
ago,
ago, yeah.
they showed 4 or 5 games. People got excited for Hellblade announcement, and then Indiana Jones was like a big reveal for them. And like people are like, okay, yeah, we see those games coming finally, and coming off the Activision
Mm-hmm.
acquisition of Activision Blizzard. It's like, okay, we're going to be getting more games now. Like, okay, now we're going to be seeing more and more games. To just like a couple weeks later, completely fumble that positive momentum from like the developer direct with Indiana Jones to now where people are like, I don't even know if Xbox is going to exist next
Yeah,
year. It's like, how do you go from that to this news? So it seems like at every opportunity, every turn, their messaging is horrible, and whenever they have any positive buzz, it just gets squandered, and something screws up, and this is where we're at.
I just feel like uh, me personally, whenever I invest on a machine that's worth 500 to $600, I better be playing something, and not only just from them, others as well, like third party, but if you got nothing exclusive wise, then why should I invest in you? This is even before the whole if Xbox is going to be here next week or not, right? But I got tired of waiting. There's rumors out here, Indiana Jones is going to appear on PS5 possibly. You got Hi-Fi Rush, Sea of Thieves, right? Even Starfield. Again, this is all rumors, right? But
Mm.
it kind of puts it in perspective. Like, yeah, you know what? If these games do end up on PlayStation, maybe, you know, I'll just get them on PS5 or on or PS6 or whenever that happens. And if they just
Mm.
let's just say, for example, everything's fine next week, and they say no, we're just gonna go more digital. I like my choice. I like having physical copies. If Sony is gonna offer that,
Mm.
I'm gonna stick with Sony. I don't know about you.
So yeah, I'm in the same boat. Like I don't think if let's say hypothetically next week Microsoft and Spencer and the Xbox team they announce, you know what, we got a shift going on here. We're gonna shift to all these games going multi-platform, right? Well, it kind of kills the Xbox. It's like, well, I don't. what is the point of owning the Xbox hardware
Yeah.
if you can just get a PS5 that has more exclusives from the Sony side
Mm-hmm.
with a bigger install base,
Mm-hmm.
with probably more of your friends are on PS5
Mm-hmm.
and PlayStation, and then it's going to have the Xbox games anyway. It's like, well, if is the news that Xbox is going, oh, we're going publisher. The bad thing about this whole thing, and they really should have just cleaned this up right away, immediately, instead of waiting for this meeting. Which, by the way, I don't believe they've even announced when this meeting is. So we're just kind of like waiting around.
Yeah.
It's like, is this on Tuesday morning? Is it Friday night? When is this meeting taking place? You're letting people wait
People,
a week and a
yeah, people
half
have questions.
when your whole brand is basically on fire
Yeah,
right
like
now because of your
what's
own
good
own doing.
now. I'll put this out here. Like if I really invested it, I only had like 33 games. It's not really that much, right?
Yeah, I only had 33 games at $60 a
Yeah.
pop. It's like whatever.
Yeah, but
It's
there's
like
people that have 433 games, right?
oh, there's people that have been. I
Yeah.
mean, I've been playing Xbox since the original
Yeah.
Xbox. You
So
know,
yeah,
so
you've
it's like,
invested. So
yeah,
okay, let me ask
yeah.
you,
Uh-huh.
how does this make you feel?
Well, let me get into more some of the back story of like the details with this, and then I'll say because I did want to mention one of the reasons that Xbox is even in this mess. There's a couple of reasons. Currently, the current generation, right? You can comparing it to Xbox Series X and S.
Mm-hmm.
So they have the Xbox Series X, which is the more powerful console with a disk drive, and then they have the Series S, which is a cheaper version, but it's an all digital console, right? So perfect for Game Pass, downloading games, whatever, right? So they have two different consoles going here, and right now PS5 only has the mainline version, which is just the PlayStation 5 console. So it kind of came out through actually of today, I believe, if I have the date right. Kind of some of the sales numbers for the current consoles, and lifetime sales up to this point since 2020. The PlayStation 5 has outsold the Xbox Series consoles by around 2-1. And this is coming from the news is coming from videogamechronicle.com. Videogameschronicle.com, I'm sorry. And this is through a Take-Two interactive financial statements, like quarterly report that they gave out. Kind of just mentioning, I think it was a slide they had in there of different console sales. So basically, the PS5 is at around probably over 50 million. These are kind of just estimates based on that. And the Xbox Series is probably around 25 to 27 million, just based on this Take-Two number that people have put together that they talked about from that financial report. So overall, the PS5 has continued to outsell Xbox Series 3-1, generally speaking,
Wow.
right? So this 2-1 is lifetime sales. This 3-1 is just kind of, month to month or whatever, right? It's more, the lifetime sales is different to the kind of overall sales. But if you look at the sales numbers for Xbox total consoles, right? So Xbox One had lifetime sales of around 58 million. This is, I'm taking this from different sources, but I'll link to the source too as well. It's from an IGN article. PS4 had 117.2 million. Okay.
Incredible.
So that's kind of like double, right? And PS4 is when Sony really took off with the console. Xbox 360, which was very long standing console from like 2005 to 2013, it's around 84 to 85 million lifetime. Okay. The original Xbox, the first one that they introduced in 2001, going against PlayStation and Nintendo, it was only around for 4 years. That sold about 21 million. So if you're looking from the Xbox 360 till now, they have lost an incredible amount of market share to the point where, in those FTC hearings regarding the Activision Blizzard acquisition, where the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, was like, kind of like, hey, hold up a second,
Mm-hmm.
we got to review this before we just approve this thing. And, kind of like through court documents and legal documents and stuff, the Xbox team. I don't know if it was. I don't know offhand right now if it was Spencer specifically who said it, or just somebody at Microsoft, or just the Xbox team. They're basically, generally speaking, like, yeah, we lost the console war. We can't catch up. We need to acquire this company to be competitive, etc. Right? So they were kind of acknowledging publicly. They're saying, "Oh, Xbox is we're great and we're for the gamers and we have all these plans." But when it comes to like the real stuff, like legal and court issues, like they're saying like we lost. And of course that might be grandstanding, like trying to get sympathy, but legitimately they have lost. I mean, there's no catching up to this thing because like right now, consoles should be selling shouldn't be winding down. They should be maintaining a good pace. And even like console sales, we're talking about, they had like a fire sale, kind of towards the end of last year, I believe, where they had like Diablo 4 bundles of the Xbox Series X going for like 350. And like normally this console is like what, 500 bucks,
500. Yeah.
right? The Series S was like cheap, like dirt cheap, like 200 bucks, maybe something like two to 250 maybe.
Oh man, I made a heck of a deal
And
then.
these were at every retailer. It was like, Best Buy, Target, etc. It wasn't just like a one thing or like a glitch. It was like, no, this is a effort that has been approved by throughout various retailers to give the go light to sell it this cheap, and they still did not, I guess, make an impression and make sales, and even with that. So it's like, okay, if you're discounting the system that much,
Well, just because there's
and you're
nothing to play, Tim. That's the thing.
yeah, there's I mean, people always say, well, they have this game or that game, but I think I think the general feeling is that Xbox, there's nothing to
There's
play.
nothing to play.
Like even if that wasn't the case, right? Let's say there was a ton of stuff, and they have games on Game Pass, they have exclusive stuff here and there, right? But compared to the other platforms, they're severely behind. And like I said, it doesn't matter if they have a ton of games. The viewpoint is from a general audience, maybe, and like that kind of leaks out for the hardcore gamers, and it leaks out to the general audience. It's like Xbox is there's nothing to play. Like, why do I need an Xbox? I'm just gonna get PS5.
Yeah.
Let me buy a Switch. So that
Spider-Man ain't on Xbox. Spider-Man's on PlayStation.
Yeah, from a general audience consumer standpoint, I think Xbox has this kind of vibe that like, okay, this console sucks. Like, there's nothing to play.
Mm-hmm.
Like that. Okay, you can say like, well, I like Game Pass and I like these games and I like blah blah blah. I like Forza and they got all these games coming out and I like playing Halo Infinite. That's great, but like, I think the general consensus, right or wrong, is like Xbox sucks and there's no games.
Yeah.
And this is a message that they haven't countered or done a good job doing that. And just when they do, all right, we got Hellblade, we got Indiana Jones, we got all these studios, all these rumors coming out, and people don't even know if Xbox is going to be here in a couple years or if it's just all a bunch of crap. Like, because they haven't even come out and said, "Don't worry, like this is just rumors," blah blah blah. Like, it didn't really sound like from Phil Spencer's tweet. It sounded more like changes are coming. We're not going to tell you if they're good or bad yet. You got to wait.
Which is bad.
So it's like it's just bad. So like from the sales standpoint, that plays into potentially what's going on. Because maybe Microsoft's looking at these sales because something changed within the past couple of months, it seems like, and that's what a lot of people are kind of speculating. Because the messaging is like, how do you go from, yo, we just acquired all these studios and blah blah blah, to now we're just going to put everything on everything? Because from my analysis of it, I think they're looking at the poor series sales for the console hardware wise. They just spent $70 billion to get Activision.
Yeah.
Not to mention what was it, 7 or something billion to get Bethesda a couple of years ago. So they're looking at this and be like, we cannot sustain Game Pass with 25 million consoles to get the money back on what we need.
Money now.
We need money now. I think maybe they just like got tired of it. Be like, hey, we see the sales number. This ain't happening. Starfield was the big game. And that wasn't going to be the game that was going to save Xbox and make Xbox. That was going to kickstart it. Okay, now we got Starfield. And like I said, we both played it.
It's not bad.
Thought it was a good game. Yeah. It's not bad, but this seems to be the general consensus with the game too. It's just kind of there, and people moved on. Yeah. And it didn't generate
buzz.
The buzz for console sales or probably Game Pass subscriptions.
What they thought they had on their hands was they had the next Halo. You know how Halo originally on the first Xbox just was like, here's Halo. and
Hmm.
it just took off from there. They expected that, I think, and they didn't get that at all.
I think they were expecting that was going to be the game. Like, okay, now we're jump starting this thing. We have a major
Hmm.
game. Like, yeah, Redfall sucked last year, but we got Starfield, and it just didn't do it. And I don't even think it was. I think people just moved on.
Yeah, they did.
Like now, I don't, and I love Bethesda games. I love like Fallout. Fallout 3 is one of my favorite
Baldur's
games.
Gate
I
was
love
all
Fallout
about the
4.
buzz during that time.
Yeah, they lost Buzz to another RPG, Baldur's Gate.
Hmm.
But I personally like Bethesda. Like I didn't stick with Starfield. It wasn't just bad. I just kind of stopped playing.
Yeah,
And I'm like, well, and if that's me, I don't know, like if the general audience is going to be like, obviously it didn't work because like now all this stuff's happening potentially. And even then bringing Starfield to another console is like,
still gotta
well, yeah,
fix it.
kind of admitting we needed more sales for this game.
I th-
So, I mean,
I just think
mhm.
that they really put all their eggs in that basket.
Well, the second thing is, so the sales are bad, right? They're at under 30 million. They're below Xbox One. They're not going to reach Xbox One because the sales are
So
slowing
they're at
down.
what, 25, 27?
They probably
Okay.
estimate,
So
yeah. I mean,
so you're
and like I said, Xbox One, which had a horrible launch, horrible lead up, basically got killed by
yeah.
PlayStation. That had around 58 million. Their Xbox Series is not going to reach 58 million.
No, there's no way.
Like there's no
So
way it hits
so do
that.
you find it interesting that 12.5, let's just say half, probably have a S and not the X?
I'm not surprised because it's
Hmm.
cheaper and it's an entry point. And plus, their whole thing, what we can get into now, is like their whole thing has been for years Xbox Game Pass, play it day one on Game Pass, and maybe they're realizing we just spent $70 billion. We cannot keep these games exclusive on a console that only has 25 million user base and it's not growing, and we need to get these games on other platforms to make money. And it's not going to happen on Game Pass because, like, if you only have 25 million consoles, yeah, they have PC players and stuff, but like, I think the Xbox Game Pass numbers, they even stopped like giving those like a long
Oh
time
wow.
ago. So I don't even think we have like what's the current subscriber base, but obviously it's slowed down, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and you're not going to have that on a user base that has 25 million consoles, and your competition has over 50 and not stopping. So just like I said, the messaging, something must have changed internally. I'm sure maybe from the higher ups, or like we need to see some,
Growth.
we need to get some growth and some money, and like yeah, Game Pass this, Game Pass that. I think Phil Spencer and others at Xbox has always said like Xbox is great because it leads to more game sales and stuff. I don't know if that's ever been substantiated.
Yeah.
I don't think I was kind of thinking about this the past week. I don't think a general audience cares about Game Pass.
They don't.
I don't think people care that for the people that play Call of Duty and Madden
And
and
Fortnite.
2K and Fortnite and maybe another one or two big games a year. I don't think they care that there's a service where you can play 100 games at any time you
Mm.
want. I don't, I think it's like the same issue with streaming. I think the streaming companies like Disney Plus and Netflix and Max, they're realizing that that model is not sustainable. Now Xbox is realizing this Game Pass model is not sustainable, and I don't think it will be because PlayStation is not going to let Game Pass on.
On the
There's no
console,
reason
yeah.
for them to do that. They have their own Game Pass. It's called PlayStation Plus.
Yeah.
It's not as good, right, for like day one
No.
new games, right? But it's a very similar service. So the only thing I can see them doing is potentially putting Game Pass, and this is just me. This is not based on anything that I read or whatever. But they do a thing where it's like a modified version, like Electronic Arts or Ubisoft, where it's just like maybe Microsoft games. Like maybe
A
that's a way it
service
gets
is
on
a
there, but
service, yeah.
yeah, I don't see them. I don't know what they do with Game Pass. I don't know if it goes away. I don't know if they keep it. I don't know because if they change it to like yeah, we got to change Game Pass because they'll frame it in a way, well, we can't do day one anymore, but you still have offers. You still have like access to all these great games. Like, dude, you're just taking away the best feature of Game Pass, the day one first party games. Like, if you take those away, you start selling them for $70, or like, hey, it's going to be multi-platform 3 to 6 months later. That kills it too, right?
Oh
Because the whole point
yeah.
of Game Pass is like you want those new games right away.
Yeah.
yeah, it's great for checking out older games, or maybe if you're bored, you want to play something you missed. But I think a selling point is like, okay, if I have Game Pass, I could play Indiana Jones day one. I could play Starfield day one. I could play the next Halo, say, whatever. I can play Fable
You don't
coming
have to
up,
shell out
whatever.
60, $70. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think it's been profitable for them or sustainable. And I think maybe something came up from higher up. It's like, yo, we got to get our money back.
I,
We just spent 70 billion on Activision.
it would have worked if they had their studios like pump out games here and there.
Mm-hmm.
But with so many games just getting axed or pushed back, it just kind of made, for me personally, because I was signed up for like a year, and I played Hi-Fi Rush, but then after that, nothing exclusive wise that kept me around or wanted me to keep. Like my deal ended up before Starfield came out. I got Starfield as a gift, and a physical version. That's why I was able to play it. But yeah, to me, Game Pass again. I mentioned it before in one of the episodes that if I was in a coma for 10 years and you tell me, hey, Lewis, there's this thing called Game Pass with all these games you missed from 2010 on, I'd be happy. But I already played those games, you know. And
Yeah, I mean,
there's
there's
nothing that they're offering that's exclusive, like you tell me I gotta wait longer for these games, Phil. Like you're listening, you're hearing me, but where are the results? I can't wait forever.
yeah. So really, the roots of this goes back to Xbox One. So we can talk about that a little bit. So when the Xbox One, the lead up to that launch in 2013, basically they were coming off the 360, which was very successful and really had tremendous growth, and they just gained a ton of market share. And they had Xbox Live. They had great games like Gears of War and all these other series. They had Xbox Live Arcade. They had so many good things going for the 360, and they shifted to more Connect, which was like the kind of movement based games, kind of similar to the Wii, but with a camera and stuff. And they were moving more towards TV and cable and entertainment for some reason when no one was watching cable anymore. Like, I don't get why they did that. And they also had an issue where people didn't, and it's the same messaging now. It's the same issue 10 years later. People didn't know if the Xbox One could play used games or not. Because there was a whole thing back then, which now it seems completely stupid. But back then, like a lot of the publishers were trying to discourage used game sales because they wanted more money. They're like, well, why should somebody sell their used game? Like, we want that money for our sale.
Mm-hmm.
So they would do things like selling like an online pass for $10, where if you bought a game used, you needed this was mostly third party games, but even Sony did this, where if you bought a used copy of a game, you needed to pay $10 for certain features of
Yeah,
multiplayer
this is ridiculous.
or characters and stuff. So there was a whole thing back then where like, yeah, we don't know if of the industry was really trying to be anti-consumer and kill the used game market. I mean, they really were. They changed their tune because they didn't get away with it.
Mm-hmm.
But they with the Xbox One, you didn't know. Okay, that was the whole thing. Was like, is this console always online? Does that mean we can't play used games? They did not address that in a timely manner. So people legitimately thought for years after that the Xbox One couldn't play used games. I think that at the time, the Xbox president, Don Matrick, did an awful job. He did like so much damage to Xbox, like unbelievable damage, where he just was not the right guy for the time. And that console came out, it was 500. It was $100 more because they bundled it with Connect compared to the PlayStation 4's 400. What was it?
Yeah,
400? Yeah,
400.
400 price tag. I mean, he killed it, and it was less powerful. So you had all this stuff going on, and at that same summer, when all these used game rumors were going on, PS4, the Sony executives came on stage and they did this little play a little. I don't know if they did a video where they did a bit where it's like, can the PS4 play used games? And they yes, and they just like physically, literally handed each other the game, and everybody went crazy and cheered because on the other side, the Xbox was like, well, we don't know if we can play used games or not, or is it always online?
Yeah.
Does it always need an internet connection? Like nobody knew, and it's the same problem now. No one knows what's going on with Xbox. Like no one has any idea. So I think, the Xbox One, they had so many issues with the studios. Like there was just no games on that thing. And the games that they did put out, Halo was diminishing returns. Good games with diminishing returns compared to what Halo used to be. Gears of War had ended. with the trilogy on 360. They brought it back with Gears of War 4 and 5. Didn't have the same reach. The studio behind Fable, they turned into a Connect studio and then ultimately shut them
It's
down.
ridiculous.
They had Forza, but that's a racing game. Like that's not going to sustain your consoles. There really wasn't a lot of stuff, and that's where that drought started coming in. Be like, where are the games? Where
We're
are the games? And then the
Scalebound.
PS4, Scalebound was a game from a Japanese studio, I believe, from the Bayonetta team
Mm-hmm.
that was supposed to come out, and they were showing like videos of this at E3 and other press conferences, and the game got canceled. So they just had so many issues with like these studios, and like you can't go a whole console generation with like no games, or the perception is like you don't have like a lot of great games to play. And the PS4 just took off crazy. And the issue, and even I think Phil Spencer has talked about this in interviews, and with the whole FTC hearing and things like that, is like they picked the worst generation to lose because according to him, they were picking consumers were picking what platform they're going to be on. For example, like, well, if all my digital games are on PS4, I'm getting a PS5. Where they're building that library where they didn't build it with the Xbox One because of all the mishaps and stuff like that. So they, according to them, which is, I believe a lot of that is true, they just kind of completely messed up about building an audience of that generation.
Yeah.
So now you see it with Xbox Series X. No one's like, 25 million. That seems like a big number, but it's relatively small compared to the competition and what their own consoles were doing prior to this.
Yeah. And
So they really picked the wrong generation to mess up. And that's really the Xbox One when it started doing the games are coming, we hear you, we're for the gamers, but the Xbox brand. And it's like Phil Spencer's been the head of Xbox since 2014 and it's gotten various promotions since then. It's like, what has this guy done in 10 years?
just promise me
I mean,
stuff.
like
That's
really,
it.
it's basically out of
It's like a
promises. At the
it's
point
it's like
now,
a cult,
it's
Tim. This guy is literally the head telling me, "Hey, just wait. One more week." And then 1 week becomes 10 years, and it's like I can't
Mhm.
wait anymore.
And I don't know what they were doing with the studios they did have, like Rare and their first party studios, because they just didn't do anything with them.
No.
Like what happened to like the next Perfect Dark game, the next Banjo Kazooie
Yeah.
game, Cameo 2? Cameo was like a original Xbox 360 game. Why was that? What happened? Like they had games they could do stuff with to fill in the gaps, and
They just
they just
didn't.
never did. Like you didn't really even need to buy Activision and Bethesda, great acquisitions, right?
Yeah.
Because they get all these studios. But if you had your own stuff like Sony did and Nintendo, you wouldn't be in that problem.
Yeah.
You wouldn't need to acquire if you did internal development.
Yeah. I think
And they just horribly messed that up from every aspect.
they fell on their face big time here, I believe.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know we talked about Redfall. I mean, Halo Infinite, well, a major
Oh my
flop,
god,
like
launched
incredible.
without co-op. How?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The game from the previous game has more features than the new game. How? How is that
The
allowed?
the Xbox 360 version from like 15 years ago can play online co-op, but the new game that just came out,
Yeah.
we can't figure it out. We can't do it. That's just like blunder after blunder. And then you move into 2022 with no games.
Yeah, nothing
I
came
think they
out.
had Forza. They had a Forza
Yeah.
game. I think that was it.
Forza can't hold everything together.
Yeah, Forza is like the Scotch tape holding this operation
and,
together.
and here's another thing, like, these guys always come out with new controllers, right? And they made a fridge. Where are the games? I don't need a fridge. Like, what the hell, man?
Yeah, I do like the controllers though. Like some of them are pretty
Well, yeah,
snazzy, but
but
like
what games are you gonna
you
play?
need. I know exactly. It's like, well, I'm not really playing games on them. I don't know. I think they really shifted too much into the Game Pass thing. Where it's like, well, people are going to sub to Game Pass
Hmm.
because we have such a great library on there, and
They
they do have a
do.
good library on
Yeah.
there. But there's an issue with their exclusive stuff. I know people have said, well, it's not the same anymore, and the industry has changed. I still think exclusives drive console
I agree
sales.
with you.
Um, look at the PlayStation, look at Nintendo, and like Microsoft tried to switch it to be like, well, let's their whole strategy under Phil Spencer the last several years. Let's put our games on everything. We want cross platform play. We have Minecraft and all these platforms. We want to open up gaming because it's because you're losing.
Yeah.
That's why you want to open up all this stuff. You don't really like the CEO doesn't really care if you can like he would never allow in a million years, like, oh, well, yeah, let's put our games on other competitors' platforms so you can play on there instead of ours.
Yeah.
Like they would never do that.
Yeah, they would never do
But
that.
I mean, like Minecraft, they did that because it's a wide appeal game that they bought into and probably already returned all their money on. And that's been on everything. So it's not really like an Xbox game. It's more like a Minecraft type
Yeah.
game. Minecraft is Minecraft. So that kind of strategy worked. But I think overall, it's like if you have an Xbox console, an Xbox brand, you got to have
You
exclusives. You
have
got to have
to.
regular scheduled exclusives.
It's
I mean, even like Sony,
it's like,
you look at Sony,
yeah, look
right?
at Sony. I mean, well, I'll say this. You know do you remember during the Dreamcast era, right before it launched, who was the president?
No, off the top of my head,
It
no.
was Bernie Stoller, right? And I remember he did an interview for Icons on G4 talking about the Dreamcast, and he always believed that the software always drove the hardware, you know. And I think Xbox kind of lost sight of that during Xbox One because they were too busy trying to appeal to gimmicks because the Wii did. You know, they were trying to capitalize on, hey, you can do the Connect here, you can connect your console to the TV, and they got really lost trying to figure out who they were in this whole console race. They were trying to be something else. When me and you and the general audience who are tuning in during that E3 were the games,
Mm.
you know. So I don't know where do you think about that?
Yeah, I was gonna say with Sony, like look at like the PS3 generation.
Mm-hmm.
They had Uncharted. They had
Resistance,
Resistance, Killzone, Ratchet and Clank.
God of
At the end
War,
of it, The Last of Us,
yeah, that's
God of War. Well, to where the PS4 and PS5, they completely switched. They went to whole new franchises.
yeah.
They rebooted God of War. The Last of Us became a major thing. They had Spider Man.
That see, I'm gonna make a point
Um,
here, Tim. They released that game already like 3 times, and Xbox can't make a new game.
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, they like, but my point is like Sony has cycled through like new games. They made
Yeah,
Horizon Zero
yeah,
Dawn and Horizon Forbidden West. That game sold tens of millions of
yeah.
copies, like a whole new franchise and IP
Three
that they
Spider-Man
made in the
games.
past 5-6 years. Like Horizon has sold tens of millions of copies. Like why isn't Xbox capable of doing something like
Yeah,
that? Like a whole new like Horizon did not exist during like the middle of the PS4 era,
no,
right?
that's
This is a major
that
game for
studio
them.
pivoted because they were known for FPS game Killzone, and they made this their
A whole
yeah
new
whole new
thing,
thing.
and it's a great franchise,
Yeah,
great character, great franchise, great gameplay. So I mean, Sony's already cycled through a whole new list of
yeah.
games, and Xbox is like still waiting for I don't know what they're waiting for. You know,
I think right now what they're hoping for is
Mhm.
to maybe be around still after next week, probably at least anybody that works there. Because that's the bad thing about this is, you know, people are going to lose jobs, and yeah,
Potentially, if they drastically change their business,
yeah,
yeah, I mean,
yeah.
or wind it down in some way. I mean, there's even room like people are speculating online. Well, maybe Xbox doesn't make a next generation console, and they've already kind of through some of those documents that got out from the FTC hearing, they are making, at least at that time, there was internal documents of a next generation console.
Mhm.
So it's like the whole console name is Xbox. If there's no box, like what is Xbox? That's the
Yeah,
whole
that's the
thing. It's a
thing.
console.
Yeah,
So I don't know if they do a thing where it's business. There's so many hypotheticals here because they've completely lost the script and completely just lost the messaging on
well,
this.
well,
So they either do this. They either like put small games like Hi-Fi Rush and Sea of Thieves on there. Okay, whatever. They announce they're going completely third party, which kills the Xbox. Or they announce, Game Pass. We're switching Game Pass. It's not going to be day one anymore. That kills the
mhm.
Xbox. Nothing they're going to do right now is going to help console sales, basically. And they're causing a lot of damage by just waiting all this time. So I don't know if this damage is irreversible or not, but it's pretty bad.
I think it's
It's
irreversible
not like
already.
end of the world like doom and gloom. It's like yeah, this is like years of stuff that's kind of like culminating in this.
I
And
think a lot of people woke up and realizing like, you know what, something is seriously wrong with this brand. Why haven't they come out with an IP that makes me want to keep staying and on this brand the next 10 years?
mhm.
You know, I think There's a lot of people that woke up from the news. Gears of War on PS5, Halo on PS5. Well, what do I need this console for then? If everything's going to
And the
appear,
Halo one, that was a pretty big stretch. That was like kind of like a lower level rumor,
yeah.
like but like, I mean, stuff like Indiana Jones was confirmed by like multiple
Hmm.
sources. That was a potential thing. That's your big game of the
Yeah.
year. So it's kind of like the another issue that we touched about is, do people even invest in an Xbox ecosystem at this point? Digitally, physical media, because you don't even know, is the next console going to have physical media? Is there going to be a next console? Is it business as usual? Like, nobody knows. And even if they announce it, there's going to be there's obviously going to be some changes based on the financial stuff going on. To what extent, we don't really know, but it's all speculation. But it's like, does a consumer still invest in the Xbox ecosystem, even if they've had multiple generations, 360, Xbox One, Xbox Series? Do they continue doing that, or is it just like, hey, let me cut
Well,
my losses and buy a
well,
PS5?
I'll tell you right now. If I'm someone who still doesn't have one or the other, just based on this news this week, them staying quiet and that tweet that Phil sent out, that we hear you thing, I just go with PlayStation because this is a terrible way they've handled it. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, it's brand
Yeah,
damaging. I don't think it helps
it
them,
does not help. Yeah.
especially
Would you
when
want to get an
Game
Xbox
Pass.
right now, Tim? This week, right now, would you
If I
invest
was just
500
if I
bucks?
was just a regular yeah, if I was just a regular guy now, I'd get a PS5. Um, Especially too, it's like, well, all right. I mean, even like people like just the thought that like it's out there, the Xbox is going third party, it kind of just like kills them,
Yeah,
right? But maybe the news is that eventually Xbox becomes just a publisher and they have games everywhere and they make their money back. I don't know. I don't know where they're going to go with this.
yeah, it's very hard. I can't predict what's going to happen, but you know,
I think.
just
Hmm.
based on 10 years of Phil Spencer's Xbox, it's been a total drag. I wish it would have ended a lot better. My time with Xbox, with my console, but um, the 15-year-old in me, because we're all fanboys at one point. Oh, and I was a Sony boy and Nintendo boy through, thick and thin. I wasn't really a big fan of Xbox. So the adult in me, is kind of like, man, I don't want a lot of people to go out of work just because there are decisions made, and I'm not talking about during this current gen. I'm talking about the Don Matrick era. It affected a lot of people. It's
And the
sad
thing
to
is
see.
too, it's not just Don Matrick. It's like Phil Spencer took over in
Yeah,
2014. It's like, what has this guy done in
he
10
hasn't
years?
fixed the
Like, I
problem.
don't mean to be like that blunt because like, but it's like seriously, it's like you're at this point now where people don't even know what's going on with their future Xbox titles and the Xbox brand. Like at the end of the day, whatever's gonna happen is gonna happen. And if they go publisher or whatever, like you're still gonna be able to play these games. It's just like, well, is the Xbox as a brand and a console, is it finished or is it completely changing, good or bad? Like we just don't
I
know.
think
We'll know next week.
I think they're gonna just throw a fancy word. They're gonna say we're gonna evolve.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think for me personally, like from a personal standpoint, like I am more leery about spending money on Xbox games now because I'm like, well, what's going to happen next gen? Is there going to be a console? What kind of console is it going to be? Am I going to play? Am I going to be able to play my games? Do I want to move my digital stuff and start buying that on Steam and PS5 now? Like you don't really feel confident and great about where the Xbox is
Yeah.
as like a console owner. You're like, yeah, man. And I've had a lot of stuff, man, since like Xbox 360 days. Like I've been playing on them a long
How
time,
many games do you think you
and
got
I'm
on
like,
Xbox?
whew, I don't know, man. Like I used to have a lot more. I definitely sold a lot during
Really?
Xbox 360 and Xbox One, and especially with Game Pass. Like I haven't bought like a physical first party
Hmm.
game, but probably a couple hundred, physical and digital.
Oh wow.
So it's a lot. Yeah. I mean, I'm like, well, I'm kind of like going to wait and see what they do just from my own personal standpoint. But I think all this stuff just like hurts the Xbox brand, doesn't really help it. It's not going to help console sales. Whatever they announce, I don't think it's going to help them increase Game Pass sales or increase console
Oh
sales at
no,
all.
I don't think anybody bought anything this week for sure.
Mm-hmm. So even putting their stuff on other consoles, like people will just buy those consoles. They're not going to buy
Yeah.
it. Like they're not announcing anything right now or even next week that's going to boost Xbox console
No.
sales. So the only really option they do have is probably go third party and try to figure out how to get Game Pass on other things, or just change Game Pass completely.
You think they go to tiers?
Um, what was that?
Tiers, like like kind of like pay. I'm just gonna throw a number out here. Again, there's all rumors, right?
Oh,
Yeah,
tiers.
tiers.
Yeah,
Like
I thought you were talking about.
150 a
I thought
year.
they're gonna. Are they gonna be crying next week? Probably gonna be crying. Some
I
people will
won't.
be crying, maybe.
I'm happy. I got out
Yeah.
early. So, but do you think they'll go with that with Game Pass tiers, like hey, the
Well,
highest
they already
tier?
have two different tiers. That's the problem. Like they have a $10 tier and like a $16.99 tier. Like I don't know what else they could do.
Sound like a tax form.
It's just like it's not there, and I don't know. I think they. I don't know if they bet on the wrong horse, but I know Spencer's been behind this Game Pass thing a long time. Like maybe what was great on paper, Game Pass, like didn't actually come to fruition, and maybe they should have been focusing more on internal
Yeah,
studios and releasing full price games and trying to get their console sold.
yeah.
So, you know, but I don't know. Did you want to touch anything else about Xbox before moving on, or?
No, I mean, next week we'll get our answers, but just for now, it's basically the brand is really damaged currently, especially after this week. I mean, we already had the Redfall fiasco, and then Starfield didn't end up being the great game that Phil thought it was to the masses. Um, the only thing I'm worried about is just hopefully more people don't lose their jobs, and let's see where Xbox goes because where it's
Mm-hmm.
heading, I don't know. If you're an Xbox fan, it's probably gonna be the darkest day.
Potentially, yeah. It's not looking great.
Yeah.
I don't know, and it's really at the end of the day, it's Microsoft's fault because their messaging has been absolutely
Mm-hmm.
horrible, and their like they should have like a communication and marketing team. Don't they have that?
I,
Don't they have
they
people that know
probably
how to
laid
do
them
this?
off just because they bought Call of Duty, bro.
I mean, they don't have people that I know they have a team that does this, but come on,
Yeah.
like how many times are you gonna have this mishap? Like every time there's
Poor
like to me,
communication.
it's more frustrating than anything. Where I'm like, these guys just don't get it.
And these guys want
You
to
know,
be
they
the
don't get it.
leaders of gaming, by the way.
Yeah, they want to buy every studio on the planet, but they don't know how to
Communicate, yeah.
put the games out or get their consoles sold. You know, so it's just very frustrating to be that where it's like, well, I think people are just going to keep moving to PlayStation, and this gap is going to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. You know.
And I just want to make this clear. Like, yeah, like I only have a PlayStation and Switch, but I do like having options. You know, I gave Xbox three chances. I never owned the original, but I gave Xbox three chances, and they've let me down. You know, as a brand. Well, that's my personal choice, but at least I can have that. And if they go away, which I hope they don't, because they as a brand have brought so many good ideas in gaming that's actually good, like Xbox Live, for example. You know, they've contributed, and and they can contribute more with fresh ideas down the road. But if they don't exist, that's less ideas potentially pitched that might be something awesome, for everyone. So I do not want to see them
Mhm.
leave.
Yeah, I do think though whatever happens, they need like a major shakeup at Xbox because what they're doing is not
Hmm.
working, and it hasn't worked for the past decade. So I don't see why they would continue the same path, which is probably why they're having this business meeting.
Yeah. Uh,
Yeah,
So
we're
wait,
gonna major
is
shakeup.
it a meeting or a update or what is it? Have they decided what's the name?
They don't even. That's the point. What is a business uh, meeting? Like, what
Yeah,
does
because
that mean? It's
it's
just like
crazy. It went from
it's a
direct, right? The developer direct to
yeah.
now. It's just again, it's all very confusing and just based on
He says it's he says a business update event. That's what he's called it.
do we work for
It's a
Microsoft?
weird biz.
Like,
Yeah, we don't care about no
am I
business,
getting
man.
paid for
Like
this?
you, yeah, like your business
Yeah,
sucks. That's the problem
yeah.
going on. We know your business. It ain't good. Um, that's but seriously, like it doesn't really sound exciting. Like
No, it doesn't.
business update. Like that sounds like you're in a meeting at work for 2 hours. Like
Yeah. I feel like I'm at Sega whenever the Dreamcast went down. Like that's probably what they heard.
Yeah.
You have to attend this meeting. We got a business update.
But definitely some of the biggest gaming news potentially ever. Definitely this console cycle and stuff. But we'll see what happens next week whenever they decide to tell us when the meeting actually is, because we still don't know. And I guess on the next show we'll talk about it,
Well,
right? Whatever
before then,
happens.
what do you think happens? What's your prediction? Just one sentence.
Phil Spencer retires. No, I don't know.
They're,
I think it's more they're going to move more towards third party publishing.
you think so?
Okay. I think that the games are going to show up on other platforms. Yeah, I think the Xbox generally just fades out down the line. It's not going to happen immediately, but maybe 5 years from now.
Yeah,
it's going to fade out. But like I said, they have this huge audience built in already from Xbox. Well, it shrank a lot because they're only at 25 million now.
Yeah,
around there. But they did have that built-in audience of people who have those digital libraries and the option to play an Xbox. So I would hate to see like that just fade away. But I think there's going to be another console for sure. Going forward in the future, my bet is that Xbox just moves fully towards like publishing as a third party.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And they have like a box where you can play Xbox games if you want. But mostly it's going to be because the hardware is expensive to do that every console cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're already this low for series, like why would you as a company invest in another console?
I wouldn't.
When you could just put these games on PC, put them on Switch, put them on PlayStation, Switch 2, PS6, whatever, make your money back, right?
Yeah.
And then you have a little box maybe that plays built-in Game Pass or something, but you don't do a whole console cycle again when you're getting killed.
Yeah, they got murdered.
Because the only thing that I said that can really turn this around is exclusives, and if you're putting your exclusives on everything, there's no point in owning a console.
Remember when he said that on that podcast whenever he was apologizing for Redfall, like you have all these great games, but it ain't gonna turn the tide.
Well, that was wrong. Yeah, basically the quote was, I remember what you're talking about. He said, well, Xbox fans that are saying, well, just make good games, and he got kind of frustrated. And he was like essentially saying, good games don't sell consoles, basically. It's like, well, they do if you have them. That's why you're getting killed. That's why Sony's whooping your butt. I mean, it's because of the games. They have the games. Like I said, I was talking about Horizon earlier. I mean, how many copies is that? So tens of millions. 20 million maybe? It's insane. I think it's just it's kind of just a dumb comment when he should have been like, he knows it's wrong, but he can't say publicly like, yeah, we messed up. Like, how many times can you say that?
Only in court.
So he's going to be like,
say that in court.
So if you don't have good games, or if good games don't sell consoles, then what does? Yeah. Or if exclusives don't sell consoles, then what does? Yeah. There's no point. So we'll see what happens next week. I think this week has been frustrating for a lot of people, especially those hardcore Xbox fans and gamers in general, because people just don't know what's going on, and everyone's just speculating. And it's fun to speculate, but it's not good for the Xbox perception and the future if like you don't have any if like random people on message boards are like speculating more about the future of Xbox and the actual Xbox leadership. That's not good.
Yeah, that is not good.
Like you gotta get a messaging out there. So we'll see what happens, but kind of following that and some Xbox news with the FTC and the recent Activision Blizzard acquiring they did. There was a complaint filed by the FTC about Microsoft's recent gaming layoffs, where they laid 1,900 people off in their gaming division. And basically, the FTC lawyers filed a letter with the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit on Wednesday. And this is coming from Polygon.com that I'm getting this information from. Microsoft had originally said that Activision Blizzard would be an independent company, and that was one of the concerns that the FTC had. And Microsoft stated these layoffs were already going to happen no matter what, under their Microsoft leadership. And Microsoft and Phil Spencer had said these layoffs were because of some overlap between the two companies. And FTC was like, well, wait a minute, you said there wasn't going to be because they were supposed to be independent. And so it was kind of like FTC was like, what's the deal here? right? Like, what's the confirmation? Like, why'd you release all these people?
Mm.
And according to Polygon, quote, a large portion of the layoffs were at the newly acquired Activision Blizzard. The percentage of Activision Blizzard layoffs has not been made public, but at least 899 of that 1,900 worked out of Activision Blizzard's California offices, according to public records. So they did lay off a lot of Activision people, which they said, it's, well, if it's an independent company, why are you laying off a bunch of employees? It's supposed to be a separate company from Microsoft. So it's a little bit confusing. Like, okay, what's the real truth here? So the FTC, I think originally maybe didn't want this to be approved. So now they're kind of going, I mean, they're not going to close the deal out and like deny it because it's already taken place. But they're kind of questioning Microsoft about these layoffs, which is at least somebody is.
Yeah, they
Why do you
want to
lay off
know what's going on
1,900
in
people?
Xbox too.
So that's something to keep an eye on. And a kind of another partnership news, switching gears here. Disney has teamed up with Epic Games and Fortnite. So basically, Disney is going to invest $1.5 billion for an equity stake in Epic. And with this partnership, it's basically going to be a lot of metaverse and social world stuff, social integration. According to an article from gamesindustry.biz, it says Disney and Epic described the project as a, quote, open, persistent social universe. It will be a games experience, but also offer the ability for fans to, quote, watch, shop, and engage with content, characters, and stories from across Disney's portfolio, including Pixar, Star Wars, Marvel, and Avatar brands. And Epic Games, their CEO, Tim Sweeney, is still the controlling shareholder of Epic and, quote, will continue to maintain control of the board following the close of this transaction. Epic told that to GameIndustry.biz. So that's a huge stake for Disney to put into Fortnite and Epic Games.
Such a weird partnership. I'd never thought I'd see this.
I didn't either, but it kind of goes with the recent stuff. Like Fortnite's partnered with Lego
Yeah.
brand, so it's kind of in the between that, and Disney obviously sees some value in Fortnite still, which is one of the top games out there still currently for millions of players. So interesting, kind of interesting what they do with putting stuff in, probably not just even Fortnite, but other Epic Games stuff. Primarily Fortnite, though. Probably see a lot more crossover stuff, advertising, and this whole social world, social universe thing. That'll be interesting, I guess, because Facebook has tried to do that and it's flopped. So let's see if Disney has better luck.
You think?
But that's a lot of money.
You think they'll do a better job? I mean, they got the IPs to do it.
Oh yeah, I think they will.
It looks promising.
It does look promising, yeah, and especially that's the game you're going to do it for, Fortnite. Yeah.
They're doing it right.
But interesting in the future, Disney now has a stake in Epic. How does that happen down? What does anything come from that down the road, right? As far as like a power struggle type thing, maybe just kind of because that usually kind of happens. I mean, Tim Sweeney's still the CEO, but like down the road, what if they acquire more and it kind of becomes an issue? And so this is it, and it's funny because Disney has always been in gaming for like decades, right? They've always had their games released, and they had their own internal developers, which they shut down. Now they're kind of investing more money again into games, so they're kind of getting back into the gaming sphere, which with a huge $1.5 billion investment. So it's kind of interesting how several years ago they kind of closed a lot of their studios, but now they're kind of getting let's back with a partnership like this. So, but Disney's always been like since the 90s. I remember playing a lot of Disney games, and even before then, probably in the 80s too, there was a lot of releases. So
should be interesting. Let's see what happens.
It's not new. It's not a new thing for Disney to be in games, but I think the change that they've kind of gone through is a unique partnership, especially. And this was an interesting article on Kotaku.com called "Legendary Industry Veterans Get Candid on Ageism in Gaming," which is something I've always thought about because I would look up. Sometimes you just come across like a random game from like the 70s or 80s or something, or even stuff they played in the 90s. And you're like, oh, I wonder who made that game and what they're up to. And then you look up the creator, developer's name or something, or the producer or whatever, right? And you look them up on like Moby Games, and like they haven't made a game in like 35 years or something.
Yeah.
So there's like a lot of old games you see where like people are like they're just gone. Like they're just not in the industry anymore. Like all the people that worked at Atari in the 70s, like a lot of those people are gone, and they've been gone since like the 80s and 90s, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most of them. So I know like on a lot of the Japanese developers, like from Nintendo, or like Miyamoto and those guys, they're older up there, and you know, I think Hideo Kojima is like probably going to be in his 60s. But generally speaking, this article kind of goes into depth about older developers and their place in the industry. And they said, according to this article, only 9% of game developers are age 50 or older,
Wow.
which I thought was really
Wow.
surprising. And this is on the actual developer side, not so much. I think the article makes a distinction between like the developer and then the business side of the games. So the actual people making the games, only 9% are age 50 or older. They kind of contributed to just people leaving the industry. They talked to several developers, Cliff Blazinski, who known for Gears of War franchise, Warren Spector, who made Deus Ex and I believe Epic
Yeah, but
Mickey and a
Mickey.
whole bunch of
Yeah.
games. He's been around forever. So he talked to other couple of developers too, and they kind of said the same thing. It's like, you know, the younger generation, like what they can make with games now took like 20 to 30 people in like the 90s or the 80s or whatever. So a lot of it's like just like the skills are just more condensed. And I think as the article goes into, it's like the crunch and work life balance. Like if you get older, you don't want to work all these crazy
No.
hours. I think in the article, Cliff Blazinski talked about like you just want to get your money and then get out. You don't want to be grinding it out and making all these games when you're older. You know, a lot of people just leave and they don't want to work those long hours, right, for what they're
Mm-hmm.
doing. And they just leave the industry entirely. They might go do something else in a completely different field, or maybe they stay in tech or electronics, but it's just something completely different from gaming. Um, I think Warren Spector, he did make an interesting point. He said it's harder to physically make games when you're older, like from a physical body perspective. He had kind of made comments about, which were in the article, how it's kind of just not the same as he was when he was younger, and he's kind of transitioned to like different roles because of that. So that's kind of an interesting thing. Like your physical body cannot take making sitting at a computer for 16 hours a day making video
Yeah.
games. So it's like hard on your body too, which I never really thought about too much. Right? You
Yeah,
don't
you
really
don't
think
think
of that.
about that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's kind of interesting too. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just not the gaming world. That's like everyday life. But it's kind of weird how when you brought it up in the video game world, like, oh my god, you're right. Like Hideo Kojima's about to be in the 60s, if not already, he's in the 60s or not. But yeah, this is wow. I think as the world gets a lot crazier, there's more ideas for people to think of and create worlds, create tech. The world's going by too fast. Technology has jumped pretty high from the 90s until now.
Yeah, and I think too, you have to think about all these like layoffs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, especially last year going into this year, like thousands of people lost their jobs. Like, do these people stay in games or do they just leave completely?
That's a good question.
Right? Like, are people that are entering the game industry out of college, maybe
Mm-hmm.
like 22, 23 years old, are they going to stay until they're 60?
Yeah.
Right now, the data is showing that's not the case, right?
Yeah, I mean, who knows?
So,
Like,
and
you're not, especially right now, how things are. You don't know if you're gonna work. Well, I wouldn't say Konami or anything like that, but like, let's say for example, like an Xbox studio, you don't know if they're gonna be there next week or what, you know?
yeah, and I think too, like, I think the article touches about this too. It's like it's harder for certain developers and teams and stuff to like adapt to new things because like I always wonder like, well, how come the Atari guys from like the 70s aren't making games in the 90s and
Mm-hmm.
2000s? It's like, well, like maybe just it's completely different programming one game on certain hardware, and then you got to have a team of like 100
Mm-hmm.
people. You know that the technology has
Yeah.
changed, so it's like I think that's a big impact too. But definitely an interesting article. Read that on Kotaku. I'll have it in the show notes. I really haven't seen too many discussions about this idea. It's kind of just here and there, so it's nice to it's kind of coming to light and highlighting
Yeah.
that. So some quick news here. Silent Hill: The Short Message, which we talked about last week, that released as part of PlayStation's State of Play. It passed 1 million downloads. So the demo launched on January 31st, and Konami announced it on social media that it passed 1 million downloads on February 6th. That's pretty, I would say, successful for that.
I would.
For a free demo that, for a kind of a rebranding, relaunch of the Silent Hill brand. So it's not bad. It's not bad at all. And did you want to talk about more of the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth State of Play that you watched briefly? Just kind of any points that stick out that just,
well, they went over the world map and it looks huge, right? I was excited for the map. You're gonna see a lot of different environments in this game, beautifully crafted. One of the cool features that they're gonna expand on gameplay wise in battle are the synergy commands. Basically like finishing moves. Let's just say, and during battle combat. I really like the synergy animations they came out with. They're gonna have the rhythm game return in this one as well. I was mentioning the piano, and also they showed a bunch of mini games. So if you want to spend time just to play different mini games, this is the game for you. It's not, and it looks better than Yakuza actually, and Yakuza is actually the best at that. Would you agree?
those weird off the wall mini games. Yeah, they're pretty. Or a Judgment.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Judgment. Yeah. One other interesting thing is they made this a point in their presentation that you'll be able to date anyone basically in the game, even Red 13.
Ooh, Red 13.
Yeah.
He's okay.
So they also made it also a point that bonus missions, they unlock extra cinematics too. So whenever there's like, bonus, go for it. You might get a little treat, cinematic style. There's gonna be puzzles in the game. Also how you play and who you play with and your team is very important. It creates like a bond. So if you have certain characters you like to band together, like Cloud, Red 13 and Tifa, if that's your team, like that's actually, it's a feature here. It makes them stronger. It creates a bond between them. That's one of the things that I found very interesting, that you get to play your style. You don't have to necessarily follow something. It's you play it your way. And the trailer or the state of play made it a note that with this game you can do anything you want with your party.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I didn't know about that, the whole dating thing. So that's like every fanboy's like dream for like the past like 25 years.
That debate's over.
Like I want to date Tifa, basically.
Yeah, or Barrett.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. All these people can live vicariously through Cloud and date Tifa.
Well, here's
now.
the thing. I don't know. They didn't make that like a Cloud, right? For sure. Like they weren't really stern on it. Oh yeah, Cloud. Maybe you're Barrett and you could date Red 13 or Tifa. So. But yeah, apparently you can date, and you have to make certain choices too, and it's just not like, oh, you get to choose them. No, how you answer their questions, it builds up. It's weird. I've never played a dating game sim ever. They exist, but this is pretty much okay. So I'm gonna be on a band now. I'm gonna be on a dating game, with this game now. So.
Well, it's funny because we talk about the Yakuza and Judgment. Like, I remember like when I played the first Judgment, like you can date a bunch of chicks in the game, and you could basically have like 5 girlfriends. You could like cheat on all of them, and like he makes like these weird like comments, like, oh, like the girls don't know about it or something. It's like really wild.
Wait a minute, Tim. How'd you get 5 girlfriends? How'd you manage that?
Come on, you already know, man.
Player over here.
Yeah, but that was the Judgment, like where I think it was part of like a side mission or something. It was just so weird, those like dating sim aspects where you can have all these girlfriends, and like it doesn't really match up in the game because like it's kind of like game breaking. Like, shouldn't they know about this is going on? Like it kind of makes the character look bad too.
It's very small.
Yeah, rumors get out there, man. But
I know. So
that state of play, it sounded like they really gave a lot of new information.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you, who are you gonna date?
Mhm. Probably nobody because I don't really care.
Really?
I'm
You got
probably just
100 hours, right? You're like,
gonna.
I got 100 hours. I gotta be.
Well, that is a long time. I don't know. I'll probably do like if they make you do it. I don't know how like whatever.
Oh, I
It'll
hope
probably
not.
just be like
It's
a
so
typical.
awkward. Those. Yeah, I feel awkward playing. Like you were mentioning Judgment. I felt so awkward. So hopefully it's not like a
And
force.
it's kind of game breaking in a sense
Yeah,
too, right? Like I mentioned, but um, all right, definitely interesting. And I going off the Final Fantasy news, some really weird Final Fantasy 14 news, which is the online MMO game from Square as well. It needs a Game Pass subscription to play on Xbox, which is interesting because this Game Pass fee is on top of the game's monthly fee. So basically, a 30-day subscription to the game costs $14.99 for 90 days, costs $41.97, and 100 days costs $77.94. While an Xbox Pass Game Core is the cheapest of the cost there at $9.99, $24.99 for 3 months, or a year for $59.99. And these prices come from IGN.com about an article regarding this news, which will be in the show notes. So the interesting thing is PlayStation doesn't have this requirement. And the game first launched in 2014 on PC and PS4, and it's just now coming to Xbox Series. And they're kind of already screwing it up by putting this Game Pass requirement on there. Like I don't know if they're trying to like artificially boost Game Pass numbers now because to make this a requirement for like a online MMO game, but needing a subscription on top of that is pretty lame.
yeah. This sucks.
This site, but it's finally coming to Xbox, and the open beta begins February 21st for Xbox consoles.
Yeah,
So
I see stuff like this, and again, it's one of our points. I'll just go get it on PlayStation.
yeah, like, I don't know why you waited a decade. Well, there's probably things going on, right? But a decade long wait, and then you do
Yeah,
this. Like people are excited to play it on Xbox finally, and you kind of like put this negative spin on it.
yeah.
It's not a good look.
Mm-mm.
But moving on to some Nintendo stuff. On the Nintendo side, we have some new sales figures for the company. So the Nintendo Switch is now the second highest selling console for Nintendo, behind the Nintendo DS. So the Nintendo Switch has 154 million units sold. Oh, I'm sorry, the DS has 154 million, and the Switch has
Oh my
139.36 million
God,
as of December
that's
31st. That's
insane.
insane. So they're probably going to pass that. It'll probably be
Yeah.
the highest selling Nintendo console. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is now at over 60 million copies sold and is the highest selling Nintendo Switch game of all time.
Wow.
And The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom sold around 20.3 million copies following its release in May 2023. And Pikmin 4, which is a recent game, sold 3.3 million copies after a July release. And a major game, really did like a big sales figure for them, is Super Mario Bros. Wonder, which just came out in October and had already sold 12 million
Oh
copies.
wow, that's
So
insane.
Nintendo labeled it the fastest selling Super Mario title to date. And all these numbers come from gamesindustry.biz, and Nintendo Life,
Mhm.
who had the sales figures in there. So Nintendo's still rocking, man. Like 7 years
You think
later.
they're worried?
No, they're not. It's funny too because like back in the day, like Xbox wanted to buy Nintendo,
Yeah,
right? Like Bill Gates wanted to buy
yeah.
Nintendo, and then like Phil Spencer and those leaked emails between like internal emails, he was like, "Oh, if I basically paraphrasing, he basically said, if I buy Nintendo, it'd be like my career accomplishment." It's like, man, you ain't buying Nintendo. Like they don't need you,
Yeah,
man. Like you got to catch up your own stuff because they just sold. They're like at almost 140 million
insane.
console sales.
Congrats to Nintendo.
They're about to break their own sales figures, and you're trying to buy them. Like that's kind of naive.
Yeah, Phil just barely broke the OG first Xbox sales.
Yeah, I think they might buy your gaming division
Yeah,
if they if this
I
is going to be reversed.
I don't
But
think they need them.
um, no, these are great numbers from Nintendo. I think they're going to have like a lot of success leading into the Switch too.
Yeah.
But
I like
yeah,
how
pretty
I like
crazy.
how it doesn't matter what it is. If it's like Wii two, Wii U two, Switch, like we don't know what it's gonna be really, but I think it's always funny that somebody likes it's always at the second.
The Switch too, yeah. Well, it's coming soon. I think there's rumors that an announcement's going to happen at some point this spring, maybe.
I'm excited.
But as for now, they've really kept their momentum up, which is really
Yeah,
impressive. Especially for like Super Mario Bros. Wonder. That's a lot of
that's
copies
a
for.
ton. And also
Yeah.
kudos to Zelda 20.3. Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm. Tears of the
So there's
Kingdom. Yeah. So that's
20.3 people that, well, Tim hasn't played it.
you're you're. I thought you were going to say beat the game. It's like you don't know
Yeah,
that.
you don't know that.
20 million people beat Zelda. I don't think
Of
so,
course,
but
we
they
got
bought it.
somebody here right now in there who hasn't beaten it.
No, I did buy. I'm one of those 20.3
Yeah,
million. I did buy
I
the
bought
special
it.
edition, and it's still sealed.
Oh my
So
god.
who knows? Maybe it's going to be worth a lot of money, and maybe I'm making a good decision.
I hope. I hope.
Um, but yeah, more Nintendo news. Just I wanted to highlight a game that maybe people forgot about or didn't realize it's already 20 years old. Is a Metroid Zero Mission for the Game Boy Advance. Just recently, as of today, February 9th, turned 20 years old. So the game came out in 2004 on February 9th for the Game Boy Advance, and it was a remake of the original NES game from 1986, 87, depending on what region the game came out in. This is one of my all-time favorite games, along with Metroid Fusion. It was those two games that kind of released within a couple years span on the Game Boy Advance. Really fantastic games. Gameplay wise was tight. Some of the best, like I said, some of the best games of all time.
I actually
And
own the original NES at complete.
awesome. Yeah, I think this game was just like it was one of those like perfect
Hmm.
games. I feel like I originally bought it when it came out, and I still have my copy actually. I have a box copy from the Game Boy Advance days, which you don't really see too often. But this game was on the Wii U Virtual Console, but as of now, there's really no way to play this unless you buy an original copy because it's not on the Nintendo Switch online system. And the sales numbers were kind of hard to find for this game, but it sold probably like a little bit under 1 million, probably like between 700 and 900 potentially. There was kind of different numbers I was seeing. It's kind of hard to pinpoint
Mm.
it, but it seems kind of low for something like that because it really was a great game. And the Game Boy Advance was really a really special system that had so many fantastic games, this being one of them. Did you play this Zero Mission?
Never played this version. No, I mean I played the
Mm-hmm.
original on the NES, but never this one.
This one, yeah. If you have a Game Boy Advance laying around or SP or you know, I don't think you could buy it on Wii U anymore. I think they closed the store down. But this is a game. If you're like you love Metroid, check this game out in some way because it's so awesome. But I just wanted to highlight it because it's the 20th anniversary
Gosh,
of a really great game,
20 years.
and 20 years goes by quick. I remember when I bought that game too. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But some more game layoff news. According to a report from GameDeveloper.com, speaking to a couple people from Visual Concepts Austin, who are under 2K.
Mm-hmm.
2K has laid off developers there at the studio, kind of an undisclosed group of people, and the studio was kind of responsible for games like Lego 2K Drive and the NBA 2K franchise. So, kind of another sad story. More developers out of work. Hopefully, they're able to kind of bounce back, but it just continues like every
Yeah.
week. There's going to be news reports on this, but just wanted to highlight that and hope those people land on their feet. And kind of getting some interesting game announcement that I really didn't see happening. Rugrats Adventures in Gameland has been announced as a new Rugrats game, which is a side-scrolling platformer coming to all consoles and PC, launching in March. Was originally announced last September. Sorry, and it's the first Rugrats game in like since 2002 and
Oh my
2006 when they
god.
had some games. So I just thought it was like so random to bring this back. They did relaunch the show, rebooted on Paramount Plus in May 2021.
Mm-hmm.
I used to play a Rugrats game on PS1. I forgot what the name of it was. I played the crap out of that game.
Isn't it Reptars? Something like that. Yeah, I do remember playing those games as well.
So this is kind of like an old school like platformer type game. There's actually going to be legitimate NES copies of the game from limited run games. So that's kind of interesting. The developer is the Media Indie Exchange, MIX. And really the only game I could find that they made before this was a Jay and Silent Bob game called Chronic Blunt Punch,
So
which was a great
random.
title. So
Yeah, let's make
random.
a
But
chronic blunt punch game, and then our next game, Rugrats.
Rugrats,
Yeah,
right? Well, wasn't the thing like was it Tommy or something? He always looked stoned or something on the
his
show.
mom.
Little baby kid. Oh,
His
okay,
mom
yeah.
looks stoned all the time. One funny joke is like, um, you know, how the show's about babies, right? And then the adults, every time they always look for advice, they always turn to one guy, and his name was Lipshits, and it's like, and it's just yeah,
That's great.
right. You get the joke, right? And it's just like some guy
Yeah,
talking crap. Yeah, so I just wanted to say that.
yeah. That I used to watch the
Me
cartoon a
too.
lot, like the original in the '90s. But I just want to read this gameplay description. It says, "Quote: Rugrats Adventures in Game Land brings a baby fresh take on retro gameplay by mixing elements from the NES era with modern design sensibilities. Today's parents can introduce kids to a nostalgic franchise through an adorable co-op adventure for up to 2 players where babies must stick together to win. Toggle between 8-bit art for an authentic retro game experience and HD art featuring hand-drawn animations for a trip straight back to the iconic Nickelodeon TV show." So they're kind of doing the I guess if like you were a parent or you're a parent now and you used to watch a show like 30 years ago, like
Yeah,
you probably have some kids of your own, right? So I guess that's where the
yeah,
co-op. I mean, it kind of makes sense, right? To reboot it. I mean, I
yeah.
guess
New audience. We're already grown up.
new audience. There was actually supposed to be a demo during the Steam Next Fest that I talked about
Hmm.
earlier in the show, but I could not find it. I don't think they released it yet because I was going to check this
Mm.
out, but it's not up on Steam, so I don't know what's going on with
It's
that. But they did promote like a demo was going to be available.
crazy.
But yeah, the screenshots do look like a
It looks good.
kind of your typical. It looks good. The art style is good. Yeah, it looks like a kind of like your typical
Hmm.
side-scrolling platform, and then looks like it has cutscenes based on the cartoon. So that's it's pretty interesting. Rugrats coming
Yeah,
back. I just wanted to highlight this because I played those games in the '90s like so much.
yeah. Me
Like
too. They're fun
you
games.
know, yeah. And then last story we're going to talk about, just highlight some new Xbox Game Pass titles that are still coming to the platform. They announced this week Train Sim World 4, Madden NFL 24, Resident Evil 3, Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, A Little to the Left, Plate Up, and Return to Grace. All coming throughout the month of February. I guess the big one of that is probably Resident Evil 3.
I would say Madden because,
Uh,
the,
you see Madden?
well, I
Yeah.
mean, I don't play these games, right? Madden, but I know there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people that love Madden, and I'm shocked to see that on here.
Yeah, so Madden came out February, I believe, 8th.
Hmm.
So the Super Bowl is this
It's
weekend.
a good time.
It's a good time. But I think the new Madden, it'll get announced soon or something. I forgot the Madden schedule. But yeah, I guess it's a big game. But I was looking at Resident Evil
Oh,
3, like
okay,
that's kind of like a major title too.
but it's not that good, Tim.
Yeah, it was just all
Yeah,
right. But um,
but on the
unfortunately,
list, it
but
does stick out as like the biggest game.
it does. Yeah, and that Return to Grace
Hmm.
game. It comes out February 20th. This looks pretty interesting. It was on Steam last May. It's like a set in the 1960s sci-fi world,
Hmm.
and it's like a first-person kind of exploration game. And I'll just read the description really quick. You play as a space archaeologist who has unearthed the ancient resting place of an AI god and one-time caretaker of the solar system known as Grace. The only inhabitants of the site are fractured variations of the Grace AI, each with their own quirky personalities and unknown motives. The main character, 80, must choose which personalities to build relationships with as she seeks to uncover the secret of why Grace was shut down thousands of years ago.
Mm,
So it did look pretty
looks
cool.
good.
I might actually play that.
Return to
But
Grace.
that's
You
the
think that's what's going to happen next week? They're going to return to Grace Xbox?
I don't they need something, man. They need some prayers, and they need some thoughts and
Oh,
prayers
they really
actually.
do.
Somebody should
I
tweet
don't know.
them
I
because
don't know what they can do, brother. They're done, I think.
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that's well. They got new Game Pass stuff at least through the end of the month. So
What if he comes out?
I'm
What if he
trying.
says like, yeah, you guys saw the Game Pass titles? That's what we're gonna talk about this week.
Yeah, I want to do a business update meeting about Resident Evil
Yeah.
3. This is a big
My
one,
presentation
folks.
of why it's the best one. Oh
Mhm.
man.
But those are the titles coming out this month that were announced, and with that, we're gonna wrap up the show. Kind of talked a lot this episode about the Xbox news, but it was such a huge thing. We wanted to really get into it and give our thoughts about all the rumors and different, just crazy theories out there and what's going on with Xbox because no one really knows. Just want to remind all the listeners again, if you're listening to the show, you can subscribe to our podcast on Apple, Spotify, our YouTube page, and all other podcast platforms. We have an RSS feed as well. You can plug into any app that you listen to get our podcast. If you go to quarterdisorder.com or quarterdisorderpodcast.com, you will find links to the show's social media pages under the podcast section at the top of the website. If you go in there, all the links will be there to Threads, Mastodon, Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, etc. Everything's on there. And if you like this episode, give us a star rating and review on Apple and Spotify, and or leave a comment on YouTube and a thumbs up. Any feedback helps like that. It helps the show get exposed to more people and kind of helps build up an audience. And if you have any feedback for this episode, please leave a comment in the show notes on quarterdisorderpodcast.com. That will be on the homepage for this episode. Or if you're listening to it later, you can look into the podcast section, and each episode has its own dedicated show notes. Or leave us an email, which you can send us to at feedback@quarterdisorder.com. And any comments you have, we really appreciate the feedback so we can kind of keep improving the show and moving it forward. But definitely the reviews help on the podcast platforms, wherever you might be listening to. And we appreciate you listening to this episode all the way to the end, and we will talk to you soon.